try to make it all organic and just kind of like slam into the episode like face first, and we can't even pull that off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. One of these days we'll get it right. So anyway, yeah, I was trying to
make it.
Try to work out, but I like the color scheme. The color scheme's a little bit different than the other one was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get.
We're gonna go with like a retro color scheme.
They're all different.
I wanna see some of that. I want to see some of that vaporwave aesthetics.
Well, so the first one I did kind of looks like that a little bit, but hold on, let me find it. It kind of looks like that a little bit, but it doesn't really show like this one here.
I feel like we're missing some good content here.
Election night technology stuff. So it's got a little bit in the background or whatever.
I like some of those the fonts. The fonts they use are pretty good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been messing with the fonts.
Did you get what I was saying with the one thing I said? Yeah, the font from this one along with that image.
That was him. That was him that was doing those.
Yeah, that was. Did you catch all that?
We were doing that anyway.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Is that thing going? Did you hit that thing? Is it working?
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. You missed like 5 minutes of like quality. Just you're fired.
He got fired. So, you know what? So that's one thing. That's one thing I want to bring up. I do want to talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Because I saw news, and let me look it up here, because on the news today, last couple of days, it said twice impeached Trump. Like that's what it says. Twice impeached. Let me see where that's at. So here's my thing: I got to turn all this stuff down and quiet. Let's see. Who was it that posted?
Well, it's kind of like an indictment, right? Like it can be acquitted or whatever of an indictment, but
that's not what I wanted. Oh crap, that's me. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Sorry. So it says
AV professionals, ladies and gentlemen.
So this is on Forbes, and it's frustrating because it says Trump becomes first president impeached twice. He wasn't impeached. Like
they started the process, but it never actually ended with a.
Yeah, and Vox, of course, Vox is totally ridiculous. If anybody's actually reading that site anymore, it's just.
It used to be really good. I remember they used to make like some really good little documentaries and stuff, and it's just kind of.
It's like the new Salon, right? It's just as bad as Salon.
Vice is doing that too.
Even The Sun. And
Vice made some good stuff. You remember some of the things that Vice did? They're like little like human interest piece and technology pieces.
Actual reporting.
And then they were like, you know what? Yeah. Let's just hop onto whatever the latest bandwagon is and beat the heck out of people.
And like this thing here I'm showing, it says what happened. This is The Sun. Listen, when I want some good quality reporting.
Go straight to The Sun.
I go to The Sun, right? I want to make sure. Yeah. When I know.
Stare directly into the sun.
Yeah. And it says right here, it says what happens now Trump has been impeached twice. He hasn't been impeached once.
Nothing happens. Even if they would have went all the way through the entire proceedings and actually voted to take action against him, nothing would have happened because he's not the president anymore.
And it says right here, it says the second Trump impeachment.
I'm sorry. He's not the president anymore yet.
Well,
is it March the 4th, March the 6th, something like that?
I didn't hear the dog.
It's going to go down.
I had the headphones on. I didn't hear the dog whistle. It was too.
The prophecy, it's going to happen.
That day.
It's going to happen.
But yeah, so I just don't understand. It's like there's a frustration. Look, there's a frustration. Talk about what actually happened. Don't. The whole thing where CNN and all these places now, they ask questions.
It's signaling. It's virtue signaling. We got to make sure that people know what side of the issue we are by positing these leading interrogatives.
No, but this is like January 13th right now. It says on CNBC, Trump becomes first president to be impeached twice. He wasn't impeached once. Like I'm not making a statement of whether he should or shouldn't be. All I'm saying is.
Yeah, maybe I'm a bit daft. Maybe if you are brought before Congress, maybe that is considered an impeachment, that you've been impeached. The fact that they're having to talk about you.
That's a good question. Hold on. I'm going to look it up. Don't hold on.
I'm not.
You go ahead and talk. Cause
No, I think it's interesting. So at this point, the 16th, he's been
February.
Acquitted, right?
It's February, right?
Maybe.
It says impeach is to call into question the integrity or validity of, that should impeach the entirety of Congress.
Well, in that case, he's been impeached way more than twice.
Yeah. What is impeach? Yeah. At least every Saturday night. Saturday Night Live, because they're always making
Yeah.
fun of that. That's what I meant. What is impeachment? How does it work? 10 facts to know. Oh, I'm on CBS, so it's not going to tell me. House has impeached 19 people, mostly federal judges. 2 presidents, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton, were impeached, but the Senate voted not to convict either of them. Nixon resigned, it says. So I don't know. Well, it's the CNBC, and they're not saying that Trump has been impeached. So I just don't. Why? You know what? Fake news, right? That's what they said. Fake news, right? Is that the thing?
It's fake news.
So it says Trump now third president to be impeached.
Yeah.
But they said he was acquitted. So maybe there's 2 things. Maybe there's an impeachment, which seems like it does absolutely nothing, and then there's like a trial behind it that makes
exactly. So the impeachment, from what I understand, and I'm no like constitutional law expert or anything like that, but I think the impeachment is basically saying we have big problems with this person. We're going to bring them before Congress and have a trial, and if they're actually convicted of wrongdoing, then they'll take it from there. But the impeachment is basically like the inquiry. That being said, on a fun note, unless you want to hit on that some more.
No, I'm done.
Okay. On a fun note, I signed up. Hold on, let me pull this up for you real quick.
Because the next thing I was going to go to is Gina Carano.
Oh, we'll go there. We will definitely go there if you want. I mean,
yeah, we can. I'll wait till you
check
pull
this out. Check it out. Hold on, you ready?
No kidding, dude. That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna hold that up there.
How
Y'all
much
see
is
that?
it?
Okay.
No, it's not focused.
You can't
No.
see it? Okay, here.
Pull it up.
Is that
There we
better?
go, Yeah.
Starlink.
Okay, so
Nice.
I've tried to put in my name in the pot, so to speak, to get notifications for Starlink. So I live in a pretty rural area, and it's difficult to get good internet out there.
It's called the Sticks.
Yeah, here berries. So I live out in a place where about the only option is 3 meg DSL service or satellite, HughesNet satellite.
What's DSL stand for again?
I don't want to go there.
Digital subscriber line. That's it.
There you go. So the gosh, you just like torpedoed me all to pieces.
You know what? You've been doing it to me
That's
for the
okay.
last.
It's all right. It's fun. So the internet is really rough out there. I recently came into this company called Nomad, who specialize in rural. I don't know why I can't say rural internet, and they offer speeds like up to 20 megs supposedly, and essentially they use the cellular network to do it.
Than what you had.
So you get a pink plan, which is T-Mobile, a blue plan, which is AT&T, and a red plan, which is Verizon. I think that's all they have. But I got on the blue plan because they recommended that AT&T was the better thing in my area, and they were out of red plans. Now,
They're out of red plans.
yeah, they were out of red plans. Like they have a certain set number of them they can use a month. Long story short,
I guess it is possible to run out of LTEs. I didn't
like
know.
as
We run out of Wi-Fi's at the house all the time.
the blue plan is still better than what I had with DSL,
Right.
but the red plan, like I still have instances where I switch onto my phone's hotspot through Verizon because it's better than what I'm getting through the blue plan. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Verizon is like way better than AT&T.
what do you got to say about that, David?
None of these are sponsored by this.
Cut him off.
Yes.
Cut him off.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, exactly. So I still switch over to my hotspot through
But for what it's
Verizon.
worth, Big Daddy Elon hit us up, okay?
Yeah.
For real.
My hotspot through Verizon still works better than the blue plan does. So I've been trying to switch that, and it's like $120 a month for this service. Completely unlimited, no throttling, nothing like that. So I recently, we were checking our banking stuff, and apparently they upped their charges to like $150 a month.
Oh, that's nice. Of course, they sent you a letter in triplicate. You had
Oh,
to
they were
sign
like,
a new
yeah, we
contract.
emailed you the newsletter
stuff.
back in
Yeah.
September that said that we were having to increase the rates a little
They
bit.
wouldn't
because
just randomly charge you more money and not tell you. That's ridiculous.
the explanation was that because everyone's working from home now, and a lot of people are moving out of the cities and trying to get more rural,
That's
and
not
are
what
wanting high-speed internet.
That's not what millennials want.
Yeah,
Millennials
exactly.
want to be in the cities, in all of the buildings.
Mhm.
They want to walk to work after riding on the bus for 3 hours and sit
Dangerous, dark
in
alleys,
a high-rise tower
Yeah.
for
and be
that's what
accosted
millennials
by
want.
hobos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
That's what hobos do, though.
but the
It's not nice.
gosh, where was I?
What were you doing? What were
I
you
don't
talking
even know.
about? You were talking about
Okay.
Big Daddy Elon,
So
and he's helping you out with
Hold on,
that
hold on.
sweet red plan. No.
no, the red.
You've
hold
got a
on,
red
I'm
plan
getting
now.
there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
So the red plan was they don't have any more of those, and they brought the rates up. So I basically started looking at the Starlink thing again.
Right.
And when I went out to the site, instead of saying, shoot us your email and we'll let you know if it's available in your area, it says sign up now. So I went ahead and signed up now. Here's the caveat to it.
Yeah.
The gear to get it set up
Yeah.
is like almost like $600.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Really?
it's like $500 for the satellite, and then there's a bunch of this, that,
You
and the
buy a
other
satellite?
taxes and everything. Yeah, you put a satellite dish out to receive the satellite
Oh,
signal.
gotcha.
Not the satellite itself, the dish. But yeah, it said like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 6 months that they're looking to expand to our area, and and like some of the reports I've seen have been like 70 meg
It says
speeds
it
and
says
low
here-
latency.
It says here between 50 and 150 meg per second, and a latency between 20 and 40,
Oh boy,
which is
oh boy.
that is pretty freaking spectacular,
my
especially
God, that's
if you're thinking
better
about
than-
going back and forth to
That's
space.
better than what I had with. I had a 50 meg cable for a while, and it was great.
Yeah,
But man, this is
that's pretty.
what was the latency? Did you say that?
It said 20 to 40 milliseconds. You'll get that. You'll definitely get that on DSL,
Jeez,
but
bro.
you can get that just on cable, man.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
No,
out-
that's
That's
fantastic.
outstanding. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So basically,
Friggin' Starlink.
you throw down $100 now to get on the list, and then whenever they're solidified in your area, then they basically let you know, hey, we're there. You need to go ahead and pay the rest of it, and we'll send you your gear, and you can get set up.
So what was how much was down again?
It's about $600.
Okay,
Oh, excuse me, $100 to put down.
to get on the list.
$600 for the rest of the gear and the taxes and all the nonsense that goes along with it, and then after that, it's only going to be $100 a month for the service. So it's going to be $50 cheaper than what I'm paying now
That's awesome.
for essentially is like 8 to 20 depending on AT&T's speeds in any given time.
That is a stock that I'm watching.
Exactly. That was the next point.
Yeah.
So Starlink stock, how's it doing?
There is none. They haven't IPO'd. This is
Ooh.
still all Tesla. Yeah.
Oof. That's
So,
gonna be an initial offering that you might want to get involved in.
Usually with the IPOs, what I've seen, you've got, well, this is Elon, so it might be different, right? But a lot of times with the IPOs, like when Facebook came out, what was it, like $50
Mhm.
or whatever, or maybe $80 it came out, and it dropped to 30 like 2 days later.
Now that being said, on their site for this the Starlink, down at the bottom it says Starlink is a division of SpaceX.
Mm-hmm.
So you may simply need to, if you are a big believer in Starlink, think about supporting SpaceX.
I don't know if SpaceX is a stock either. I'm looking now.
Mm-hmm. I have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah, I gotta check that out too.
So this was all stuff that just happened today.
Dude,
So
I'm so excited for you. That's
I'm
freaking
pretty
cool.
excited too. It's pretty neat.
SpaceX stock. Yeah, I don't know that they are how to invest in SpaceX. Nope, they haven't IPO'd yet either. It doesn't look like.
So like as soon as that stuff goes up, if that stuff starts, it's gonna explode. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Oh, symbol's X. Is that right? I'm gonna have to look into this.
X gonna give it to you.
Don't listen to me. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Waiting for you to get it on your own. X gonna deliver it to you.
Knock knock.
Stop it.
Oh, that's different. So that was United States Steel Corporation. Okay. So yeah. Anyway.
So that's some pretty cool goings on.
That's cool, man. Congratulations. That's super cool.
Well, we'll see in 6 months.
Internet from space, man. That's pretty cool.
So supposedly, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you research this stuff a little bit too, but the way they're able to get such high data rate and low latency, is because they're doing low Earth orbit satellites instead of the more traditional high altitude satellites that all the other telecommunication giants use.
one of the other things that they mentioned was they're trying to.
Am I somewhere on par with that, you think?
I don't know. Actually, I was wondering the same darn thing. I have no idea. Because that's my thought is like, listen, man, I'm still getting 50 milliseconds from, because you got to think, you got to go up and down. I need to get some water. You got to go up and down, and then you've got to then route that somewhere, right? So you're gonna have some sort of egress point. So you're going up and down, then you got to route it somewhere, and then so that's latency, right?
Yeah.
So if you think like
all of those steps,
I want to say my cable modem, I'm like anywhere between probably 25 to 30.
Really?
Constant, yeah.
I thought you would be getting closer to like 8 or something.
I should.
Yeah.
I should. But of course, when I do a trace route, I'm like 15 hops from Google for some reason. So that's a story for another day.
Well, it's because you're running that VPN.
You know what's funny about that? Thanks, Scotty. You know what's funny about that is
What a good guy.
he is really a good guy, dude.
Gosh.
The VPN's funny. So I've got that. I actually had to take. Did I tell you about this with my phone?
I've decided I don't want my kids to try to be like me. I want them to try to be like Scotty.
That's why they're hanging out with Scotty right now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What a stand-up
Wait,
individual.
you ever wanted your kids to be like you?
I'm just kidding.
Supposed to be.
I'm never
better,
having kids.
Better than.
I'm never having kids.
So far, so good. Your mailman on the other
I
hand.
am an exact copy of you. You cannot fix that.
That's a good point. I can't deny it. Poor little thing.
So what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought.
You were talking about your internet connection.
Oh
speed.
yeah. So
Listen, I'm gonna stop. Okay.
So you think
I'm
about
gonna stop doing that.
you think about just the trace route stuff.
We've had our fun. Okay.
You think about just the trace route, like the different hops and stuff, just from getting from point A to point B, and depending on what the routes and stuff look like. So the thing that I'm curious, because you've got your back and forth to space, but that's going to have some sort of egress point somewhere. Because so what they're going to do, those satellites are going to have to point to some other satellite, and that satellite's going to have some sort of downlink,
Some
right?
kind of geostasis orbit, something.
And then that downlink is then going to go out somewhere, and that's where. So when you think about your cable modem node, right? So it's great when back in the days when nobody had internet, right? And you were the first person that was on your node. You're pulling down, well, of course, back then you're pulling down like 6, 7, 800
Especially
megs.
like DSL used to be the king of the heap, right?
Yeah, well, DSL was always locked because it only had so much bandwidth. So DSL was always
and if you were
locked
the
to so much
only
bandwidth.
person on your node, though, you got all of it.
Well, DSL.
Or am I thinking of the way cable was?
You're thinking of cable because
Okay.
DSL was point to point between you and your local LEC. So DSL. You had now the funny part about DSL is they can
so clear. Just to be clear, one person at this table actually worked for telecommunications companies, right? You don't have to divulge anything. Just
and so the neat thing is you had basically what you have is like a digital switching panel somewhere. They would call them a DAC, or there's a different type of name for it. But I think we had like a Hornet or something like that. But anyway, essentially, it's like a phone. It really is like a phone switch,
like a switch panel, kind of.
Yeah, because when you think about DSL, DSL is going over your phone, and that's really what's limiting you on the bandwidth that you have.
Yeah.
Because you're going over the phone line, which is why I think DSL tops out at like 12 meg or 13 meg or something like that, which of course back then was pretty good.
What is your phone line? Is it 15
meg.
twisted pairs or 2 twisted pairs of copper?
2
twisted pairs.
Yeah.
RJ13,
RJ11.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So yeah, you got the two pair.
Pop quiz, CCNA boy.
And then you've got right. I don't know. So that will go back to your local exchange carrier, and that goes into a big, again, like a DAX is what it would call, but it's an electric switching panel. So back in the days when you had Betty's and Jane's like pulling, doing literally physically pulling cables and stuff out. Eventually,
Hey Betty, patch me through to Herb's Diner.
That's right.
Yeah.
Eventually you had a digital switching panel, which would allow that, and then you had T1 tie downs and all that stuff. Anyway, so your DAX is kind of like that. So basically, what they did was they took that, and then you could limit the line and stuff. Like you get your own card, whatever, you limit the line in the big it's not a DAX. It's what the heck.
Don't worry about it. Just say the node.
Nobody really cares.
Nobody
That's right.
knows. Nobody knows. You can be making up all this and like both people watching are going to be like, I don't know what he's talking about.
So remember what I always tell
This
you?
is the most boring episode ever. They're talking about satellites and internets.
Remember what I always tell you? You don't ask a question on the internet. You just go out and say the wrong stuff. That right there, that is probably the secret to getting more subscribers. Is you just go out there and you start saying the wrong stuff.
Just
And
rage a
people are
bunch
like,
of
"Hey, man,
yeah.
You need to go on there and correct these guys. They're idiots.
Just rage a bunch of telecommunication and internet encyclopedias and just make them all angry. They'll want to come out and fix it. You guys suck.
But
You're
then-
wrong about everything.
but
It's
then
not
you're-
a node. That's the wrong term.
So the funny part was your your DSL worked more like a switch. So everybody had a guaranteed up and down. So it was guaranteed because you could only
There
go
was
so
a
much.
dedicated pipe for each one.
You had dedicated pipe, just like your phone line, because your phone line goes pretty much straight to the phone company, right? So your cable modem is more like a hub, on the other hand. So when they put a node out there, it's just a big fat pile
All
of
the packets
bandwidth.
just kind of jump in together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a big fat pile of bandwidth, and doggone it, man, if you're the only one on that node, you can pull as much bandwidth as you want to. And then what happens is, what you'll notice is there's peak times, right? So if you're up gaming at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, you're sucking down all the bandwidth. But before and after work, like right around those areas, and then nighttime and stuff, that's when it kind of drops down a little bit. Now, if you're out in the country, it depends on what they're feeding the goats. So that's the more the goats are fed, and when they put the chicken feed and stuff out, that's when my internet actually starts working again. That's all I was trying to say. But anyway.
How'd your Valentine's Day go? Did y'all have a good time?
We actually went. Yeah, we drove.
Uh-oh.
We drove. No, it was fun. It was fun. We went with some friends
Uh-huh.
down to a place called the Toastery. Never
The
been.
famous toastery?
Yeah, so you know about it. I had no
I've
idea.
heard about it. I've never been there.
So
Dwayne talks about it all the time. Our boy Dwayne.
Instead of going up to Blowing Rock,
Uh-huh.
the roads are icy, so we decided to go down
Moore's
to
Vegas?
Mooresville, right? So
Okay.
yeah, to Moore's Vegas. So anyway, so I don't know, and you know me, I'm a bourbon and they kept talking about mimosas. So I was like, what the heck, man? So we get down there and they're like,
so you went full
what the heck?
brunch. You went full brunch.
Yeah, we had brunch, dude. I can't remember what I had at this point. What did you have? I knew you had.
I was gonna say cougar brunch, but
You had. What'd you have?
I had chocolate chip pancakes.
That's right.
yeah, it sounds awesome.
I also had the kids' pizza. It was made with like salsa and it was really good. You had free shavakadu toast.
That's right. I had some free shavakadu toast because you
Fresh
had to have to.
shavakadu?
Right. So, good point.
Fresh-
And I had hash as well. That's what
Yeah.
it was.
Like corned beef hash or something.
Mm-hmm. Corned beef hash, and there was something special in it.
What in the world is free shavaka toast?
Free shavakadus.
What was it say about?
So FRE shavakadu. It's actually
That sounds French
It's-
as all get out.
it's fresh avocados, but it's pronounced free
Free
shavakados.
avocados.
So of course they
okay,
had.
Gotcha.
of
No, I'm
course-
in. I'm tracking.
Of
It's like
course, in Moore's Vegas,
it's like
they had.
jalapenos, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course, see, free shavakado. They're right there. She's got it. So
Alright.
and of course, on I'm gonna have to blur that out because we're gonna get thrown off.
Yeah, that's
Guarantee
that's a
it.
copyright strike
Yeah,
right
copyright. You're fine. You're doing good.
They can't see it.
Okay,
they
good.
can't see it.
there. You
Even
see
better.
nothing.
So of course, we're at this little hipster place, so they've got avocado toast, which
Mhm.
I had to make some because they gave me some free shavakadus, and then I had toast. Literally had toast. It was really good though.
No, it's delicious.
Oh.
I understand why hipsters like it.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. Well, you are a total hipster.
I liked it before they
That's
did.
why I like it. Yeah, you watching that? Was it Fresh Morning, Good Wake Up, whatever? I don't remember. It's
I think you're talking about Good Mythical Morning, Chris.
There you go. There you go. I got. Did you do that on purpose? Oh, because drinking. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Sorry about that. I'll move away from the mic next time. That's my bad. Anyway, so they were talking about mimosas on the way down, and I'm not not a mimosa guy, really. I wasn't. Anyway, I wasn't a mimosa.
You're
guy.
totally in now.
I'm totally in now because we get there and they're like,
Problem is you're taking in a lot of sugar.
"That's a really good point. That's a really good point."
It's not going to make you feel good later.
I was fine. Trust me.
Were you?
I felt
Okay.
perfectly fine.
Okay.
So I just put it this way: mimosa flights. So that's what got that's when I knew I was in, because we're on the way down and she's like, my wife is like, yeah, mimosa flights, and I was like, I'm sorry, you can get what now? You can get a flight of mimosas. So not only is the flight of mimosas, you know how they come out on those little paddle boards with the holes in them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were out of paddle boards. So because they usually come out with like the paddle boards with the little like 8-ounce
It's
glasses.
false
or whatever.
advertising. You should get them for free.
So what they did instead is they brought out full tumblers full, like 12-ounce tumblers full, and that was your flight. So instead of having like the little 6 or 8 ounce, it was the full. So I actually drank 4 full mimosas for breakfast, and it was awesome, actually. Like, it's a thing now. I had, what was it? One was,
So are you officially a cougar now?
I think so. Yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
cool.
Listen, ever since I went to the Blue Martini in Florida,
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much that
Okay.
was it. It
You're
was
done.
over for me. Yeah. So I had like I think it was like peach and raspberry and
Oh, they
black-
had different flavors?
black cherry. Yeah, they're all different. Peach, raspberry, black cherry. There's another one. I can't remember what it was. Closing.
Oh.
I don't know. I didn't.
By
I
the
didn't
time
mess
you
with
got
that
to it,
nonsense.
you didn't know.
No, I
You were
couldn't
just a
taste
hot
it.
mess.
It was.
How was the food, though?
Oh, dragon fruit.
Oh,
Dragon
yeah.
fruit. Yeah, that was really good too. The food was delicious, man.
Was it?
The hash was
I've-
great.
I've never been down there. I've like I said, Dwayne always talks it up and always wants to go out to lunch and stuff there, but I've never been.
So I was talking to your wife
Uh-huh.
the other day, and it's actually the other evening. But anyway, what we need to do is we need to plan a day that
Mhm.
we go down to Point Blank, and we head down because my wife is still looking for a pistol.
Do some shoot sting.
Yeah, well, yeah. So the thing is, we take her down.
Guns are cool.
We get the 9mm because
Mhm.
that's what I want her to 9. That's what I want her, and I want her to 9.
I think that's a wise choice.
And then we can go and take the kids to Monsoon,
Mm-hmm.
which has got so now because Chloe's been wanting to try some what's it called,
Sushis.
sushis. So Chloe's been wanting to try some sushis,
Mm-hmm.
and if she hates that, which she won't because it'll be good, then she can have a bowl or whatever else, and they've got the pot stickers. And
What
they've
about
got the
Pisces?
little spot? Well, see Pisces is all it sucks compared to the other place.
Really?
Yeah, I think the other place is way better.
Oh, I always thought Pisces was pretty good.
It's okay. They've changed it up so it's not all you can eat anymore. You know that, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that was the best part.
Apparently, that's the only reason you went. 'Cause,
Well, I thought it was pretty good, and it was all you could eat.
yeah, no, it was good.
So I was talking to
Sushi's better at the other place though,
yeah.
especially if it's not all you can eat.
Well, I was talking to Tracy about sushi because like her hang up was she loves like seared ahi tuna, like tuna tataki and stuff like that. But when it comes to the seaweed wrap, she's
Mhm.
not a big fan of the seaweed wrap.
So she's into like nigiri and stuff.
She likes
sashimi?
nigiri and stuff like that.
Nice.
But like I was trying to explain to her because she's like it's always like when we get it at places local to us, it's not that great because they don't because you're
That's 'cause we
supposed
live
to
in the
take
country, but
yeah. That's because you're supposed to take the seaweed wrap has to be the right consistency because if it's too moist, the seaweed wrap disintegrates and doesn't hold things together.
dude, there ain't seaweed. There ain't seaweed from like 6-7 hours from here, like for real.
You're right, yeah.
No, there's nowhere near. We're like in between nowhere and the middle of nowhere and somewhere else. I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, we're in the middle of nowhere, which I like. I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not near. I mean, the closest body of water we have is a lake.
So I was trying to explain to her that Pisces and places like Monsoon down in Moores Vegas typically have it's a different consistency to the wrapper. Like the seaweed wrap doesn't have as much. It's not. It breaks down at the same rate as the rice and everything else. So it's not like you don't have like a big piece of grass in your mouth.
It's not like we got some cheese the other day from the one local deli, and it was all sliced up. It was really good American cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, I'll never understand why, because it was all individually
Fresh
sliced.
sliced American.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Individually sliced. It was white American cheese. It was
Mhm.
really good. Very mellow, very just delicious. We actually made grilled cheese out of them. Just, dude, it was so good.
I got some suggestions for you if you want to try something different.
So, no, I want to hear.
Okay.
So, but as I'm peeling the cheese, I'd made a sandwich with it the day before, and I was making one, or I was doing something else for, I don't know.
Are we getting ready to talk about cooking?
We can. But as I was pulling the stuff out of the cheese, I noticed there's a little plastic piece in the cheese. So for whatever reason, there were like little strips of plastic on the edge of the cheese. Like, so think of bologna, right? You know how
Yeah,
bologna
yeah.
has got the little casing on it?
Uh-huh.
Like that, but plastic. I actually got some. I had a sandwich the other day. I made like a BLT
You didn't
with
realize
some
it was
turkey.
on there?
I had no idea. So I'm like chewing on it, right? And I'm chewing on the lettuce. And you're sitting there just going, just chomping down, dude. I'm like, listen, I've got a pretty decent gag reflex. But dude, I'm telling you,
What?
I was almost done with that because, I'm thinking it was lettuce. I'm thinking I'm chomping on the lettuce, man. I thought that was, nope. done. So yeah, that was pretty gross. Thankfully, I remembered the other day. I remembered before I started making this stuff that who would put plastic in cheese?
I think they wrap it in it to keep it all together and keep it sealed so it doesn't dry
Every
out, and then they
single
slice it off.
Slice.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Like everyone
Should
had
be
to pull,
surrounded by it. Yeah.
but it should be colored. It was clear. You couldn't see it. The only reason I knew is because I almost choked on it.
It does seem like it's a little unwise not to color
ridiculous.
it or some way that you can be able to pick it out. I mean, good grief.
So tell me about this grilled cheese, because this is very basic. I'm
Yeah.
very basic. You know me.
Oh,
But I'm learning.
the basic grilled cheese is good.
Oh, dude. So it was two
Tomato soup and grilled cheese.
some of the best, man. It was just 2 pieces of cheese. And the way I do it, the way I was taught to do it, was you take the butter, you throw the butter in the pan, like a ton of butter, throw it in the pan, let it melt,
Mm-hmm.
take your sandwich, put it together, flop it down in the pan, let it soak up some butter
Yeah.
for like 3-4 seconds, flip it over, and then that's it. That's
So-
all you got to do.
So
And then
there's
just wait
there's
for it to
different
melt.
schools of thought, right? So there's the folks who want to put the butter, like they'll literally take the stick and rub it around on the pan, then throw the bread down.
Hold, say that again.
They'll take the stick of butter.
Oh, okay. And they just
They'll just go to town on the pan,
got it.
and then they'll throw the bread on it. And then there's other people who want to pre-butter the bread and then throw it down. Both ways are just as good. A lot of people will, but they're both effective. The key thing for me with grilled cheese,
So I can't get
is-
enough butter on my bread when it comes to grilled cheese.
Oh,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
it nice and
now
nice and terrible for my heart.
now
I
I've
want to feel my heart just like
No,
seizing up
bear-
and just
bear me
arresting
out.
while I'm eating this.
bear me out, dude. I'm working on it for you.
Okay.
Okay. So what I've done at times is I have fried bacon, taken the bacon out of the pan, bread goes in.
Oh man, in
Use
the
the
baking.
bacon grease instead of butter.
Oh my gosh,
Then cheese goes on. Then bacon goes on. Now,
you taught me how to,
purist will tell you that technically at that point it's no longer grilled cheese. If you put meat on it, it's a melt. It's a toasted melt.
melts are good.
I think so too. Well, what was that I taught you?
You taught me how to make the eggs with bacon. You taught me how to make the eggs with bacon a long time
like
ago when we
a
were making
scramble.
camp and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then not only do the scramble with the bacon, but then you could do the hash and whatever else you're making with the bacon grease. So you cook the bacon, because we were camping that one time and you had your little stove out.
Yeah.
And what you do is you'd cook the bacon, take the bacon, you throw it off to the side, and then you leave the grease in there, and you just
Eggs go in next.
and it doesn't look
Scramble, scramble, scramble.
it doesn't look pleasant. It looks burnt, like it looks all
It's-
burnt and
it's
goopy and stuff,
delicious.
but
It's
it's really
delicious.
good, dude.
So, grilled cheese. My like pro tips is like I'm not a trained chef or anything like that, but I like to eat.
We do have a trained chef.
We do.
We do. We need to get him over here one
We
of these
do.
days.
We ought to. Yeah. We could do like a full on jujitsu episode instead of cooking. Talking
Yep.
to our chef.
No, he'll go because you know what's funny about him? When
It'd be funny because we go from one extreme to the other.
he goes full autist when we start
Mhm.
talking about cooking and stuff. Like we went to Coach's one time, and I just remember watching his face because he was sitting down there,
Super analytical.
and it was like everything that came to, and it's listen,
You see him kind of doing this number. He's just calm, reserved.
Just
and he's
analyzing.
kind of doing this.
it's just analyzing everything as it comes to the table. Not only as it comes
So
to
you
the
can
table,
follow his eyes.
how it comes to the table,
Mm-hmm.
like the temperature when it comes to the table and all that stuff. And unfortunately, with that
The
place,
timing.
you got to be careful anyway, because like the first couple weeks it was
I've
open
had good and
was
bad experiences.
awful.
There. Haven't been lately though.
They hit their stride for like 6 or 8 months, and then they tried to serve Scotty some frozen jalapeno poppers, which is just, first of all, when you say they're made in store, they shouldn't be frozen. But secondly, you don't do that, man. Like you as a server, you should see that it's not steaming, that the stuff that's coming off the top is actually like frost. You
Mhm.
know, you should
Yeah.
be able to tell if there's frost.
Yeah, that should have never left the kitchen.
It's terrible, but he's fun to watch because he just gets
Them
so
catfish bites
frustrated.
though, dude. Them buffalo catfish bites.
They're pretty good.
Dang. The
When-
grilled ones.
when they
you
come
could-
out. Oh no, the grilled ones are the best, dude. But when they come out right, that's the problem.
Mhm.
Is because when they don't come out right,
One of my pet peeves is timing, right? Like if people are still eating their appetizer or their salad or soup or whatever it is, you don't like I've been places before where they brought out the appetizer and like you barely cut into something and they're trying to put the plate on top of it. And I'm like, no, you've got to like gauge the table. You got to come out and check on your table and be like, okay, they're about done with their appetizers, so I'm going to go ahead and bring these out. It's all about timing. Service is timing. But anyhow,
Was it you and Tracy?
Bruce can go crazy on that.
Yeah. Was it you and Tracy that were with when they brought out the appetizer after they brought out the entree?
That sounds about right.
Like, I remember that. Like, that's happened a couple times.
Where was that at?
I can't remember because I remember
It's probably best that we don't.
Yeah.
Because they'll never sponsor us.
That's a good point. They will never sponsor us.
Hold on, back to grilled cheese real quick. So
Yeah.
I wanted to hit like the pro tips for grilled cheese. First of all, the right bread. Whether you want to do the butter or butter on the pan, butter on the bread, you want to use something other than butter. There's some people really like to use mayonnaise of all things. Also,
okay, hold on. No, explain this to me. Mayonnaise in the pan?
no,
what you're
mayonnaise on the bread, and then grill the bread with mayonnaise side down. Grill it, because mayonnaise is for the most part, it's oils. It's got a little bit of egg whites in it. but
Gotcha.
Oils. So you're gonna get a similar consistency when it fries to what you would from butter.
Huh.
So anyhow, long story short,
That sounds disgusting.
it actually works pretty good.
I'm just telling you.
I was apprehensive at first, but then once it's not my thing, but it's not bad at all. It's
Okay.
good. It's
Huh.
So
I got to try it at least.
butter, mayonnaise, bacon grease, whatever you use, you got to get the right bread. And the most important part of the bread is the thickness, right? So I've seen people try to use like Texas toast or like the French baguette or something ridiculous. If your bread's too thick, it will insulate the cheese from the heat so much that the cheese doesn't melt.
Mhm.
And part of the fun of grilled cheese is its ooey gooey goodness, right?
Got to be.
And if you use too craggy a bread, like a baguette or something like that, that's got big pores inside of it, the cheese will kind of like run through it, and it doesn't stay together.
And it probably melts at different rates.
Yeah. So good old just white bread or something similar to that. Wheat's okay. Brioche, sliced brioche, we found recently is pretty good as long as it's not too thick. Contrary to popular belief, it is okay if you're using a thicker bread and your cheese isn't melting, press that sandwich down with a spatula. Some people say don't do it. I say do it. Because if it gets your cheese melting at the same time that your bread is toasted to the point that you want it, that's what's important to me.
Well, you've got two different, like, because those are almost two different sandwiches too, because when you take the bread and you kind of squish it down, it gets greasier. Like,
Almost like a panini or something, right?
So that's good too.
So the bread's important. The bread is one of the most important pieces.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you have to compromise, because you can go too thin on the bread, you can go so thin that the cheese is melting and running off of stuff, and it turns into a mess before it has a chance to toast properly.
Yeah, you can almost just completely vaporize the
ruin it.
bread.
Yeah,
So
you
the
can
bread's
ruin
not even there, and you just got this massive cheese, which it sounds good, but it's not.
Yeah. So American cheese.
What do you add onto it? What else?
Wait, hang on.
Why-
American cheese.
Yeah, okay.
American cheese is a great way to go, whether you do white, yellow, whatever. But other types of cheese that I've found are really good, Gruyere, Munster, and Havarti are some of my favorite. Gouda also. Gouda works pretty good. Gouda's pretty Gouda. But those other cheeses all have, so there's some cheeses that when they melt, they get rubbery. And there's some cheeses when they melt, they get velvety kind of. Do you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like if you take cheddar and you melt it, it doesn't, it's like,
Oh yeah, no,
it
doesn't
starts to
degrade.
gunk, right?
Right,
So like Havarti,
because the
Gouda,
oils kind of separate.
yeah, that's exactly what happens. So some of those cheeses aren't, I mean, you're not going to take a brick of Parmesan Reggiano and stick it on a grilled cheese. It's just not going to work. It doesn't do that. So anyhow, those are my two. The right cheese, right bread. You were asking about stuff you put on it.
Yeah, because like one of the things that I was thinking about doing was taking some like Italian seasoning or some oregano or
This
some
is
thyme
fun.
or something.
This
and
is
like,
some of the funnest I've had.
and throwing that.
I love talking about things that I'm passionate about.
And
I'm passionate about food.
And throwing some of that in there, like something else too. But my concern is because like so you mentioned Texas toast, right?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do a Texas toast, then so the thought is it's too thick, but you've got the garlic and you've got the herbs and you got all that stuff on the side. So
If
it
you're
actually
doing a garlic,
it flavors
bread.
it a little bit is what I'm trying to get at.
yeah.
Is it flavors a little bit? So like what else would you? Because I'm actually interested. Because you could do like a garlic butter.
So Texas toast doesn't necessarily have to have the garlic and stuff in it, right? So you can Texas toast is just a thick cut white bread that's a little bit denser.
What?
Yeah. So like there's Texas toast garlic bread that you can get in the frozen section, which I'm guessing is what you're talking about. But that's not indicative of all Texas toast.
Listen, don't be coming with just regular toast. It's got to have garlic on it, and it's got to have the herbs, and and it's gotta be Texas-y, and
That
it's gotta be
stuff's
toasty.
delicious too, and it's Pepperidge Farm, isn't it?
Why the heck would you call it anything else? Why would you have any other kind of toast? Texas toast.
I'm just telling you, bro. That being said,
Hold on a second.
paprika is really good.
So does Texas toast when it doesn't have garlic? That's when they call the feds and they want more money.
Probably. Probably. That was a good one. That was a
Sorry,
good one.
thanks.
There's 2 ingredients that you're missing to
Okay.
make it Texas-y. It's
Okay.
got to have gunpowder and cow doo-doo on it.
That's true.
Wow,
That is
okay,
true.
Good deal.
That makes it unequivocally
So
Texas. I'm glad I
gunpowder
got-
and Ted Cruz. Got it.
So as far as like spices and stuff, whatever you're into, whatever's going to accompany what you're doing it with. Like if you're doing tomato soup, oregano, basil, things like that are really good. Some, you know me and Tony Sacheries, right? You sprinkle just a little bit of Tony Sacheries over your cheese, or paprika even is a really good one, and that'll really like, it'll set off some other things in the grilled cheese that you're like, wow, that's a little bit different, but it pairs perfectly with this
So
tomato soup. Or
is this going on the inside or the outside?
on the inside,
Okay.
inside with the cheese.
Because here's the other thought too is like think about a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take and you put some Tony Sacheries on a pizza, oregano on a pizza.
Oh,
Take
that too.
something
Yeah.
like an oregano or like a rosemary or
Mhm.
something like that on a pizza. I don't know,
Mhm.
why do I keep saying rosemary?
I don't know.
Whatever.
Generic Italian seasoning.
There you go. Which is delicious
Fantastic.
actually. Like I don't know what the heck is in there, but it's good.
There's
Like it's
usually
good
a
stuff.
little rosemary, oregano, parsley, and
It's so funny because I always
thyme.
add extra oregano and I always add extra
Mhm.
rosemary. So thinking
sometimes fennel seeds.
Italian seasoning and then think of garlic, because my thought is those are leaves, right? Bits of
Basil too. Yeah.
basil, yep. So those are leaves. And this is my question. So if you took the bread and you
Mhm.
buttered it, I sound like an idiot, but whatever.
You're not.
And you buttered it and you put that stuff on, right? And then you put that in the pan down.
Yeah.
It's going to cook that seasoning a little bit.
Depending on
How
the
would
herb,
that taste?
depending on the herb and how much you toast it, you can burn them. So like pepper is a prime example. Like I do a lot of the sous vide stuff, and I'll put salt, pepper, and different things with the meat, and then I'll toast it or put it under a broiler or hit it on the grill, something like that. You got to be really careful with pepper, because just like garlic, if pepper gets burnt, it doesn't have a pleasant flavor. It gets kind of bitter. So just about any leaf-based herb can get that way. If they're dried and you stick them in butter and you kind of fry them like you're doing with the grilled cheese, as long as you don't go too long, pretty much, if it's going long enough that the bread goes from like golden to brown,
Right.
you're taking a chance on burning those herbs.
So maybe if you want to do it on the outside to flavor the bread a little bit, you go about halfway, and then like maybe the second time you flip, you throw some of those herbs on there. A
Maybe.
little bit more butter. Then
I
flip
think
it.
you'd be all right as long as you don't make the bread brown. As long
Yeah.
as you like stay with that golden kind of color.
Dude,
you
we
know.
just got this new pan
Oh,
that I was
oh.
trying to. It's Otto's birthday tomorrow, by the way.
But like salts,
Otto's gonna
paprika,
be one.
and dried herbs like that should be okay on that side. I just think they go better on the inside. You get that nice protective layer of cheese, just hugging those herbs and spices.
But it's a different flavor. It's a different flavor palette, I guess, when it's on the bread and it's part of the bread, and it's mixed in with the bread versus when it's in with the cheese. Because when you bite it and the crispy, with the garlic and all that stuff
And
there,
it's all chewy. And
like that's good. So that's
what about your new pan?
That's crispy.
Tell me about your new pan.
My pan.
Pan.
Oh yeah. So we got this new pan, and it came damaged. It had to have come damaged
Mhm.
because it's kind of like kid. So it's about yay big. It's kind of
Aluminum?
it's kind of a flat. It's a flat pan. It's supposed to be a flat pan with about 3-inch sides or whatever to it, so you can do all sorts of stuff with it. It's bowed up in the middle, and it took us a while to figure this out.
Really?
So what I mean is
From the factory?
hmm So when you take, it actually came a little bit like it came busted, a little bit bowed, but we're like, because it's a big pan. We figured, I don't know why. I figured, oh, this is fine. We spent
Yeah.
$60 on a pan. It's fine. It doesn't, or
Dude,
I don't know how much.
I've had pans that I thought were going to be pretty good, and as soon as they heated up, they started to deform.
Maybe
that way.
that's what happened, because this thing here, what I noticed the other day, I can't remember what I was cooking in it. I can't remember what I was cooking. I was cooking something. Maybe it was eggs. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But nothing was cooking in like probably like a 4-inch diameter in the
That's
middle,
so weird.
and everything was cooking on the outside.
Do you know the brand of it?
I
Or the
don't.
material or anything?
I don't. I have to look it up. I don't
Aluminum,
remember.
steel, non-stick, stick.
It is non-stick. Let me pull it up. I got that. We probably ordered it off the thing here, so let me look.
Off of the Amazons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me look that up.
yeah. So other things you can put on grilled cheese that would technically make it more of a melt. So you think like spinach, tomatoes, some vegetables like that go well. Peppers and onions.
Bellerini Parma
I've never heard of that.
forged aluminum non-stick frying pan. And it's a cool looking pan. Like it doesn't look like
Forged
that at all.
Huh.
But yeah, man, it's I'm pretty sure this is ours. I could be totally wrong. It might be something different. But yeah, thing came out.
Reviews all look good.
Reviews are, dude, 4 stars,
Huh.
4.5 stars.
Yeah.
No,
That's
you
odd.
know what? No, my mom ordered that. Hang on a second. That's not ours. That's not ours. I think it is ours, actually. I
Are
don't
you sure,
I
or are you
know.
not?
I have
Or are
no
you sure,
idea.
or are you not?
I think it is. Either way,
Either way.
way, it needs to go back because it's
Yeah,
seriously
that's
a boat up in
unfortunate.
the middle and just completely. Let me ask another question while I'm thinking about it. I
About
like
pans?
about pans.
Okay.
So I like to, and you see them do this at Chinese food restaurants.
Mhm.
Okay, we have this for what it's worth in Maitland when I used to go. If anybody's in Florida in Maitland, China Master. Oh my gosh, it's
Hibachi
on.
style or what?
No. It is
It's
it's
Chinese, not Japanese.
That's right.
Okay.
Chinese. It's a little hole in the wall. It's on. Oh, doggone it! I have to remember that. Horatio is the name. If you're anywhere near it, you know what Horatio is. It's got 2 names, but the name's Horatio. Anyway, I can't remember the other name of the road. I could probably look it up. I got a thing here that I can pull maps up. Anyway, the China Master is this little hole in the wall. It's on the one hand side, and there's a little old man that runs it with his wife, and they're both wonderful. I used to take her in there when she was like 1.
Yeah.
Seriously, so this is like forever ago, and the same folks run it.
I love little spots like it.
And what was super cool was you go in and it's a really small little place. You walk in, there's no seating or anything like that. It's all takeout. So, but you walk in and there's a counter. And when I say a counter, don't think of like a food counter. This is like if you're going to walk in and get your linens done or something, like it's that kind of counter. It's weird.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like food. But there's a glass front on it, so you can't. No, there's not. There's not. I'm lying to you. It's just a normal counter, and then to the right of it, there's kind of a little
Are you making up this story right now?
corner piece with a glass top on it with all the toppings and stuff. So you can kind of see into the toppings and stuff. And then right there, like if you reached over the counter, you could put your hand in the wok. Like it's that close.
Huh.
So when he makes the food, he's making the food right there in the.
Made to order.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was fun was we'd go in and I would make whatever. Like his pepper steak was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And he would make it. He'd pull the stuff out. And what was funny was after a while, she was like 1, and she would learn what went in the pepper steak. So she would point it out, and then he'd grab some and he'd throw it in the pot. Like literally, you just tell him what you want in there. He'd grab it and he'd throw it in, and then they start making it. Absolutely delicious. I mean, just fantastic. It is still some of the best food period I've ever had.
Yeah.
Because, and it was inexpensive too. But we'd go up there usually on a Sunday or something. And because that's when I had her mom was at work, and we'd go up there on Sunday, and I would set her. It was so funny because when we first went up there, the first couple of times, like they don't know you, but after a while as a regular,
Mhm.
I'd walk her in and just set her on the counter, and I was done because the lady owner, she would walk over, and then that was it. Like while I was there, she had Chloe.
Yeah.
So she would walk around with
That's
Chloe,
cool.
and she would feed her
It's
fortune
neat.
cookies the entire
It's
time.
neat when you develop a relationship with
Yeah.
the restaurateurs.
Oh, they were fantastic, and I've sent like seriously, like if anybody's in the area, I mean that place is absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful, and still the same folks. My father-in-law goes by there every now and again, and a bunch of
Mhm.
I turned a bunch of his crew that he works with on to this place, and they go by there all the time now,
Cool.
Which is awesome. So at least I can do something for him still, but even
Yeah.
though I'm so far away now. But the place is
You've got a
fantastic.
legacy there.
Oh, dude, the place is awesome. And the son was working there for a while. Big boy. I mean, he was
Mhm.
like 6'4", 6'5". He just big, stocky dude. Super nice guy. And he would run the stuff too. I think he was going to college at the time. But anyway,
So are you wanting to walk?
so I really do. But let me.
Okay.
So he had the big walks, right? And what I love about his kitchen was, and I don't know if this is every kitchen, but it's kind of weird. It was kind of like at an angle. So the cooking surface was like horizontal, no, diagonal, like this.
Yeah.
So you'd set the wok in, and it would heat one side of the
Tilt it kind of.
Yeah, it was tilted, and then he would work on tilted, and then when you were done the surface, the
Dude, there's
the
a
water
whole
was right there.
crazy technique about the way that you use a wok like that, where you like we'll use a wok, we set it on the stovetop, we put stuff in and do our
and
thing.
we stir it like white
And these
people.
guys are like they're getting in there with like snow shovels and are flipping stuff
Yeah.
everywhere and like they're
he-
tilting it
he
and then
moved
they're
the
like
entire
pushing
time.
stuff onto one side and cracking eggs and you're like, wait, how's he do? And then before you know it, he's like, here's your fried rice. Get out of my face.
We probably went in there 100 times.
Yeah.
And I've watched him every single time because we would sit right there and watch him, and I was from me to Scotty the whole time, and I never could figure it out. Like that's one of the things
It's a whole art form.
I would love to learn from somebody like that, so I could that was that good at it, so I could learn how to do it as well, because his food was absolutely delicious and it always tasted fresh. It was so good.
So tips for if you're looking at a wok. The number one thing I would say is to stay away from non-stick Americanized wok stuff. If you're wanting to like practice that style and like start to learn that a little bit, and they're a little bit higher maintenance. They're somewhere in between. Cast iron is really kind of higher maintenance. You know, like you end up letting it rust or something. There's somewhere between that, but like steel, like carbon steel, high carbon steel is going to work really good for that sort of thing. What's the matter? Don't worry about stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
Put your headphones back
I'm
on.
hearing
What's the matter
noise.
with you?
It's like that. I think the laptop is kicking up or something.
But high carbon steel woks and for that matter, high carbon steel cookware in general from someplace like I've had pretty good luck with Calphalon. I've got some of their aluminum stuff. I haven't got any of their high carbon, but All-Clad is like the king of, and I'm sure somebody's going to tell me I'm stupid, but All-Clad is like the king of like actual line chef type cookware where you see a guy come in, he throws a steak in there, sears it real quick, and just tosses the whole skillet in a high temperature oven real quick and gets the thing out. That's All-Clad. All-Clad is amazing stuff, but you pay for it.
Wow. Yeah, this is a.
But it's you've bought it for life. Like that
You
pan,
darn well better.
that pan that you got though.
Yeah.
You know, you'll use that. You'll return it maybe a couple of years. It'll be gone and you'll get a different one.
Right.
The All-Clad, they're like guaranteed for life. If there's a problem with it, send it back, get it replaced.
Well, this one's on sale right now for $200.
The wok?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
Their
a
high carbon wok from All-Clad?
It doesn't say it's a stainless. It says stainless steel. Stainless steel 5-ply dishwasher safe. I don't think so.
That one might be pretty good, as long as it doesn't have any like non-stick coating on it.
Not for $200.
Buy it
So-
once, man.
so-
Feel the pain once.
Well, here's the question. Here's the question that I had when this is why I brought this whole thing up was one of the things I always noticed him is he would make the food.
I can't wait to talk to Bruce after he's listened to this. He's going, David, you're such an idiot.
He's not gonna listen to anything.
You're so stupid.
He's gonna be like, I tapped out within the first 2 minutes.
That's ironic.
So
I made Bruce tap by talking about cooking.
he's gonna what he would do is he would make the food and he would throw it into the takeout carrier or whatever after they stuffed her full of fortune cookies and whatever other stuff that like they would give her little biscuits and dumplings and like all sorts of stuff. Like they would just stuff her full of stuff before
That's awesome.
she ate better than I did. But anyway, which is saying something because that place is delicious. China Master, so good. Anyway, he would as soon as he dumped the food in the container, he would immediately wash it, hot and everything. Just spray water on it,
Yeah.
and then immediately wash it. And you watch him do that. Like you watch him do that to the grill. You mentioned teppanyaki before. That's what they do to the grill. So my question is,
Why?
like, no, not why. I know it's
Okay.
easier to clean. It's way easier
If
to clean
it's
it that
hot,
way.
the steam of the water hitting that hot surface will peel off all of the stuff. It'll make it clean that much faster. Plus, high carbon steel has a tendency, just like cast iron, to rust.
Right.
And if you hit it with hit it with water while it's hot, and it's still hot enough to evaporate that off after it's clean,
Gotcha.
you're taking care of it.
But
You
here's-
just set it right back in use.
But here's my question. Like back when I was in college and probably wasn't the highest quality cookware, I remember
I'm guessing
I-
it was good enough for ramen, though, right?
I remember having it was a pan and I remember we were super hot. I'd just gotten cooking with eggs or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and I literally took it and put it underneath the water and it just warped. I mean, you just saw it
Oh,
warp.
yeah.
It literally just warped.
Well, not you're starting to get into mine and David's area now, because like where we do the blacksmithing stuff, you're seeing some of the same effects that happen when you quench steel, the warping and stuff that goes on. So, fun fact, right? Like samurai swords. Let's talk about these samurai swords. The samurai swords, when
you gotta
they
poke your eye out.
when they forge these things out, for the most part, they're perfectly straight. They get their curve when they're quenched. So these guys will heat them up to the perfect temperature. And when they dunk this thing in water, because you have a higher carbon steel on the edge and a softer steel on the spine, they'll cool at different rates. So the sword will actually take its bend in the water, just like what you're talking about with that pan.
Right.
It's one of the coolest things. I saw them do it on a YouTube documentary thing. They did it in a glass tank, like an aquarium, so that you could see it happen.
That's cool.
It was pretty magical. But yeah, you got to be really careful overheating your pans or quenching them after they've taken a lot of heat, because it'll set a warp in really fast.
So I guess that's what you would do is you don't want it still simmering hot. You let it cool down for a little bit. Get your food out of it, let it cool down for a little bit, just a tiny bit,
Yeah.
so it's still hot. You're not going to put your face on it, but then you put it underneath the thing. And
Nah, I'd hit it screaming hot. And I'm sure that's what old dude was doing too, because his wok was thick enough that you didn't have to worry about that. It was hammer forged. It was beaten into shape, and it was thick enough to deal with that.
I never paid attention to the thickness of his wok.
Some of
That's
your-
a really good point.
Some of your other pans, like I said, some of the stuff that we get at the Wally World or someplace, they're so
Probably
thin.
just too thin.
The type of steel that they're made of isn't up to that challenge. That's why, like, your dude probably like either he probably paid a couple $100 at least for that high carbon wok that he was using in the restaurant.
Oh, those woks
No
were huge
doubt.
too. Those
No
things were like,
doubt.
they had the big. I mean, they were probably, I don't know, probably 2 feet, something
Yeah.
like that. I
Yeah.
mean, they were deep.
It's amazing. And then you start getting into they're running like natural grass because I can't talk tonight, or propane. They're probably running like propane, something underneath of it, and that thing is just screaming hot all the time.
Yeah, you're probably right. Probably is running propane.
So it's almost like a furnace underneath of that thing.
That's what
it's
it was.
crazy.
Yeah,
So that's why he can manipulate the hot spot by swiveling the pan around different angles and
dude,
stuff.
it was always fun to watch him.
You watch like
cook, man.
Shanghai street food vendors, and these people are like masters with this stuff. It's like, we talk about martial arts and stuff a lot, and like it's a different type of art that isn't martial. It's culinary arts, right? But it really is an art, just the same as jiu-jitsu or anything else is. I don't know. It's kind of magical watching somebody who knows what they're doing with some of this equipment and the things they can do.
There are so many different things that are like that.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like I might know nothing about a particular topic, but whenever I get to watch or hear from somebody who's an expert in that field, plying their trade or something, like I'm not a carpenter at all. I'm not a woodworker. I do well to keep my digits, right? But like watching somebody who really knows how to do joinery or something like that, it's like I said, it's art. It's amazing to watch.
Well,
Super cathartic. It's relaxing, stress relieving. You just like watching the master work, and you're just like,
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at. Is there's a lot of arts out there. Definitely a lot of sciences, but even science feels like art anymore.
who was it? Was
Go
it?
to the doctor and just try to describe something going on with your back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to remember who it was. There was like I want to say Musashi, but I don't think it was Musashi, that was talking about that the master in one trade, he was a master swordsman. He was talking about the master in any of these other trades was his equivalent,
Right.
just in a different area.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The master gardener was his equivalent, just in a different area.
And one of the secrets of life, I think, is if you find yourself being a master at something like that, or you find something that you enjoy so much that you will become a master at it, enjoy it.
Yeah,
Like enjoy being the master at that. So many folks will
and
look.
be willing to share, even with people who aren't going to try to apply that trade themselves. But
Right.
if they're curious about it, share that curiosity. Share your knowledge, share the experience with them, and be willing to recognize another master. And sometimes, like, I talk to people who are really good with, like I said, a gardener, like somebody who's good with lawn care. If they're talking about gardening stuff, no matter how much I think I know, I'm just going to shut up, watch, and listen.
That's what I do with a lot of stuff. Just shut up and watch and listen. Seriously.
I don't believe you.
No, dude. Seriously, I don't know anything. I'm an idiot. There's some things that I've picked up, and I'm like, I can mildly work this.
I can
through.
muddle through this.
Yeah, but for the
me
most
too.
part, man,
Me
no,
too.
I just listen. I think, and that's another key to life is
It's
number one,
learning.
be happy with the things you know how to do. For example, and just a dumb example by this is like, you always see the folks with frizzy hair, they want straight hair, and the folks with straight hair want frizzy hair.
Yeah.
You know, same sort of
They
thing.
want to get a perm.
They want curls or whatever. So it's kind of like that, or like
Grass is always greener, right?
like writers wish they could paint, and the other way around. So it's like it's weird stuff like that. It's just be happy with the talent that you have. And the other thing is, and God bless, if this was a piece of advice I could give anybody, shut up and listen. Especially to folks that have been around. This is one of the things that I learned early on when I was a kid. And it was funny. I learned this from my dad. I learned this from my father and my grandfather. Listen to your elders, not because they're old and they know more, but because they've made more mistakes than you.
Yeah.
And doggone it, if you can take 2 seconds of somebody else's knowledge and avoid a mistake down the road, isn't it worth it?
Every bit of wisdom that somebody has accumulated has been fueled by a dozen or more mistakes that have taught them that bit of wisdom.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Think about the last major mistake that you made. And that's a lot easier to think about than the last success you had. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because it sticks out in our brains.
You learn more from them.
Yeah.
Especially the ones.
You should, anyway.
Especially the ones that were embarrassing because you should have known better.
Right.
I mean, good grief. I don't want to pick on David at all, but me and him have conversations pretty regularly about, David, I'm not telling you this because I'm just trying to be mean. I'm telling you this because this will save you some hurt in the long run, and I want to save you hurt and anguish in the long run.
Like not rolling drawers at gym.
Yeah, I want you to learn from my mistakes because I've made plenty of them, and I'm trying to share this bit of wisdom with you.
Right.
Please apply it.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to feel the same pain.
It's one of those things. It's one of that parts of the human condition, right? Like who's it said that humans are a race or a species with amnesia. So
yeah.
There's part of the human condition, and it's one of the weirdest parts, but it's one of the most challenging parts, but it's also one of the most beautiful. Every human's born as a blank slate, right? That person
a sponge
only gets
should be a sponge
what is poured into them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a friend and I don't know if I want to go here, but a friend of mine and I were talking about the other day, talking about racism. Think about your kids. They're not born racist. Nobody is.
Oh yeah, I've worked hard to make my kids racist.
I mean, you're doing a good job, by the way. I'm proud of you. But like, no one's born racist. No one's born a Republican. No one's born knowing how to skateboard. No one's born with the equivalent knowledge of the ages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, it's like you really get two sides of it. They're not born with all these crazy ideas, good or bad, but they're not born with any knowledge. Now, there are a few things that I think that we have got instincts, right? Like we have internal instincts and stuff, which I know science will say, no, it's not. It's just that these are learned behaviors and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so.
No.
I think there's some definite lizard brain.
There's definitely been some scientific experiments that refute that it's all learned behavior. I mean, they talk about the one with the different the mice that they took to the other side of the planet and had them run through mazes and stuff, and they started to figure out the patterns all at the same time without any prompting. And one group, they would prompt them and show them how to run the maze. Am I getting it wrong?
Yeah, so that was...
And then the second group would just automatically pick up on it?
So that was a
Help
study...
me out here,
That's
because
okay.
you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a study by...
Got to keep each other honest here.
That was a study by Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. And
I'm glad you're such an artist.
And I'm gonna get some of this wrong, but essentially I'll make up where it is.
You're getting more of it right than I am already. Rupert
Sheldrake.
Okay.
So in New York, like, and he actually quotes the actual schools where they did this in, but essentially they had this generation of mice, and the idea was, is knowledge a learned thing? So if we
Can it be passed genetically?
Right. So if these mice run this maze over and over and over and over again, eventually if they make it, which I think the first set of mice was like 700 some odd times before the mouse figured out and started running it more
Consistently,
regularly.
yeah.
Right. So now consistent to statistics might be 52, 53%, whatever.
Mhm.
Let's not talk about that. But there's
But a
a
recognizable improvement.
that's right. There's
Yeah.
a point in time where they went, you know what? This mouse has got it down, right? This not this mouse, this generation of mice has got it down. So then they took the same maze and they said, okay, now we're going to run the same maze with the next generation of mice. So blood-related next generation of mice.
Mm-hmm.
And that generation of mice was
Zero exposure to the maze.
zero exposure to the maze, was able to figure out the maze quicker. So it went from like 700 to
Yeah.
like 500, right? And then it went from like 500 to like 400, and went from like 400 to like 300, right? So every generation did get better. But the crazy part was when the university over in LA or whatever in California, on the other end of the
Mm-hmm.
United States, went and they said, "Hey, so we've got these mice that are not.
This is the part that tripped. That was the one that I was trying to get to.
We've got
Awesome.
these mice that are not related to your test, but they're the same type of mouse, right? So it's the same. I guess lab rat is a specific genus now,
Same
whatever.
breed or whatever.
So it's the same breed, right? So what they said was, they said, "Hey, just curious, when you started your." When you started your
Well,
test,
What was their success rate?
yeah, and they said, can you read it back and how it did, like how you guys doing?" And these scientists were freaking out. They're like, "Dude, this is awesome. The rats are learning. They're passing along genetic information down to their next genes." So they said, "Look, you guys are probably starting off around the 700s. That's kind of where we're at." Awkward pause. And they're like, "Well, so where are your mice at now?" And I think it was like 400 something. And they're like, "No, 235. I think it was like 235. I'm probably
Mhm.
way off. But the point is, they got a marked difference over several generations. And the other school's like, yeah, ours
The
did
school
it.
in the United States,
Right.
half a world away.
So you got, say New York and LA are the two different schools.
Brand new rats haven't been exposed to the maze at all.
They say, wow, ours ran the maze. They got proficient at it 235 times
Ours are starting out
at 235, whereas the
where
ones
yours
on the East
are
Coast,
at now.
that's right. And that was the mind
That's a
blow,
trip, man.
was that both rats on both coasts were the same.
Which gets back to my crazy.
And then Australia calls, and they're like, "Hey, where are your rats at?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, they're down to
I don't
like
even remember this part.
180 or something." And they're like, "Oh crap, ours started at 180." So that was the crazy part. And he goes on to tell another story. It wasn't about starlings. It was about a different kind of bird. And I'm gonna totally get this one wrong. I'll research it.
Well, skip this one.
I'll totally
Okay.
skip it.
So that was the main point, though, is that kind of refutes the learned behavior to an extent. So now, unless there are systems in place that we can't yet pick up on, things that allow the animal kingdom to share knowledge in ways that we just don't understand, they haven't observed, haven't found a way to measure them yet. That's a whole other concept. Some people call it the Akashic Network or Akashic Libraries, but that's almost more of like a spiritual kind of term for it. And I think
Rupert refers to it as morphic resonance.
there you go. Oh man, that sounds way better. I like it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like somehow I was hoping that we could get this mice in a maze to somehow full circle segue back to grilled cheese. And I think we could do it because there's usually at the end of the maze, right? But
Now you're talking about putting mice in grilled cheese, and I'm not in. But what I was getting at,
we're putting grilled cheese in mice.
what I was getting at is you've got this difference between, you've got the thought of, so nature versus nurture, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the idea between genetic. Does anything pass down genetically?
Yeah.
So
These innate traits
and you've got different
or behaviors, rather.
oh man, I just thought of a bad joke. You've got different professionals in sports, right?
Tell me later.
You've got different professionals in sports, like so you'd say like, hey, we'll go look at a Kobe Bryant. So maybe Kobe Bryant's kids would be really good at playing basketball. So that would be what you would think. Is that genetic or is it not genetic?
Too soon?
And the thought would be is maybe it's not genetic, but maybe it's because, I don't know, they were raised around basketball, right? So if you think about like martial artists and stuff, a lot of your
You know that dude's dead, right?
Who?
Kobe Bryant?
So, I mean, I'm sorry
Okay.
for his family, I guess.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, definitely the heart goes out to his family and stuff. And he had daughters, right? Kobe? They must be missing him.
I think he had a daughter that died on the helicopter crash with him. She was very good at basketball too, to answer your question.
Well, the point was, is she good at basketball because it's genetic, or she? What do you mean?
She died with him.
Oh, she died too.
She died in the helicopter crash with him.
Wow, I guess I didn't know that.
Wowzers.
So, I guess the question is, was she good at basketball because it's genetic, or is she good at basketball because her dad was a basketball player and they probably played basketball a lot, right? So if you think of actors, like how many actors, their kids are actors? Well, you think, are they just genetically better at being actors? No, they're around set all the time with their parents. Hopefully, if their parents are being somewhat decent, they're not completely.
Probably some learned behavior there.
Yeah. So you would think that's would be passed down that way, right? Maybe it's not genetically. So you would think of a Darwin, like back in the day, saying, "Oh, look at the mosquito coming out of the mud. Obviously, the mud makes mosquitoes." Same sort of thing. Is it a learned behavior versus a genetically passed behavior? So you would think, again, going back to racism.
Well, but about the only way to do that is to separate to prove that is to separate people from their offspring, and I don't think that's not something most people are going to be down for.
Really? You don't think so?
It's weird.
Really?
So I mean, like the mice is a great experiment, though.
I mean, they've kind of been doing that here for like the last, I don't know.
Whoa, okay, come on now.
So anyway, so when you think about the learned behavior versus the
when it comes to something
stuff,
like
right?
racism.
So like racism, that's a learned behavior. Like you are taught that. Like there's no racism without being taught it, and that's for me is one of the craziest things is our children really. How do you learn about, or how do you stop it? You don't teach it, or you teach something better, right? Don't be racist. Your kids won't be racist.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a too simplistic way of looking at it.
I heard about this black man who was blind, and he grew up in the South around a bunch of other racist people, and he had no clue that he was black. And he started to exhibit a bunch of signs of racism, and before he knew it, people were like, "Oh, geez, he's a racist, kind of like us. Should we tell him he's black?" And they're like, "Oh, we better not." So Clayton Bigsby goes on. It's a really complicated story. You should check it out if you're into Dave Chappelle.
That sounds good, dude. It's something, but it's a great.
Honestly, one of Dave Chappelle's best skits.
It's a great. Honestly, it's
a good social commentary.
It is. That's what I was gonna say. It's a great social commentary
that
because
kind of
like,
proves a lot of the points you're talking about.
We were talking the other day. We're like, what is the stereotype? What is being black? Because the frustration is you can take somebody. So first of all, we got to get past. It's so dumb, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. It sounds so dumb, but the society still does this, right? Like, why? It's frustrating.
Well, we've taken generations of looking at people who aren't like us. If they don't look like us, they're not in our groups,
but
and we fear the other. It's crazy stuff.
That's the craziest part is because one of our nerdiest, dorkiest friends, who's just like us doesn't look like us. Like, and the frustration is again, you miss out on that person. Which again, I guess if you're
I agree with you.
You know, if you're judging that person by what they look like, I guess they're not missing out on you. So that's probably good for them anyway. But
like you said before, if you silence people who have stupid ideas,
oh God bless,
then you don't know that they're the people with stupid ideas.
Yeah, it's tougher to find them.
Let them speak so that you can call them out for their stupidity.
Right. Yeah.
Which brings me to Gina Carano. We'll get there.
And then there's the other thought is I was thinking is so when she was 3 or 4, my wife decided that we wanted to have Easter Bunny pictures. Okay. So, because it must have been 3 because it was before her sister. So Easter Bunny photos. So what do? You go to the mall, right? And then you find an Easter Bunny, and then you give the child to the Easter Bunny, and you take really cute pictures, right? No, we're on board now. We got it now. We're heading the right direction. So anyway,
you're just getting the squirrels ready for us. Okay.
Hand. So
thanks for being proactive.
We start walking up this Easter Bunny. If I remember correctly, it's like this lavender, this light purple sort of paisley Easter Bunny. Huge.
Furry?
Yeah. Like 6'6", big giant ears on top of that, like just gigantic, right? So she does the only rational thing and loses her mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still do that.
Well, Who wouldn't really think about it? I mean, the thing, it's standing over you. It's got giant eyes, right?
Furries are everywhere.
6 foot, whatever. It's got these gigantic teeth and these huge mitts and stuff, you know.
I'm seeing furries at the Ren Fair now, dude.
Pawing
It's
at you and
really
stuff.
uncomfortable.
You really want to talk about this? Carry on. Go ahead. Tell
No,
me-
the
tell me
furries
about
are
your-
uncomfortable.
How do you know they're uncomfortable?
That's a good point. They make me uncomfortable.
So, and
So
then
she starts freaking out.
she just loses her mind, like starts
Yeah.
screaming, yelling, and stuff. And at first, you know, my wife, it's for what it's worth, it's some of my favorite pictures we've ever gotten of her because she's like, I always show my wife, I'm like, look at what you did to your child, because like
Scarred forever.
2 minutes in, I was like, we're done, we're out, and my big fight, like we're having this big argument in the middle of the mall, and she's like, no, we really got to get these photos. I'm like, really? Look at your daughter. She's got tears, literal tears streaming down her face. She's crying. She's all puffy. Her eyes are all puffy and stuff. She's all red. Every one of the photos, you can see the red splotches in her cheeks and stuff, and she's still like she had just
Mortified.
Oh man, so
Yeah.
still some of my favorite photos ever because she's absolutely precious. I still
Poor little
I
thing.
feel so bad because we just leave her alone. But like that comes from somewhere, right? Because nobody taught her to be terrified of a giant bunny. But doggone it,
Yeah.
she looked at that and went, I'm a prey. That's a predator. Get me away. Like
Yeah.
you would think, right? Like that's got to be an innate sort of thing that just
Instinctive almost.
says, there
Yeah.
you go. That's the word I was really looking for. An instinctive sort of thing that says, go
What,
ahead, Dave.
what do you
Go
want to
ahead.
cut him
Finish.
with, buddy?
Finish. He's raising his hand over there.
So there's also things that are not passed down really, but like let's well, man, I forgot. But some things aren't passed down. That's it. So
Okay.
Dad's pretty much a computer nerd, you could say, and
Thanks, David.
I'm a train nerd.
Yeah.
So you would expect
That's
me to
good.
be a computer nerd.
Well,
but
yeah, that and you know, actually that kind of tracks a little bit because I was never really into trains. I've always liked machines and stuff like that, but I've never been into trains. His grandpa on his mom's side worked for the railroad industry, and my grandpa on my dad's side also worked for the railroad too for a time. So it's interesting that it kind of like skipped a couple of generations, the interest in the railroad. It might just be coincidental,
Right.
but this dude's a total train nut, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I like trains, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's it. And the technical stuff, like it's just, you know, again,
Good thought, David.
it's like, is any of that genetic or is it learned behavior? Because like
Mhm.
one of the, I don't know. So for me with the technical stuff, I usually don't share a whole lot of technical stuff because you get that immediate, and a lot of folks, you get that immediate, I'm not interested sort of thing, you know? Because a lot of folks is like, don't tell me how to do it.
Stay high level.
Just do it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you
Tell
start,
me it's working or it's not, and get out of my face. Dork.
yeah, which has been my experience pretty much my entire life. Is
Mhm.
I don't want to know about this because I just don't care. So maybe that's why I don't share that with my daughters all that much. Because 9 times out of 10, when they come and they're like, "Hey, Dad, this is not working," they're trying to play a game or they're trying to
They
do
just want it to work.
schoolwork or something, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I've never actually stopped and asked them, "Hey, do you want to learn how to fix this?" I don't know if they want to or not, but generally that's why I don't do it. Now, basketball, on the other hand, kind of fun, right?
I just make David figure it out because I'm lazy. I'm like, figure it out on your own.
do
punk.
you sit there and laugh at them while you're smoking a cigar too?
Yeah, and I throw rocks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
It's
just like,
really good.
that's the greatest thing. But yeah, so like
He's nodding his head. He's like letting everyone know that I actually do that.
it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Okay. Anyhow,
So
Carry on,
that's
sorry.
it. So the nature versus nurture, the learned behaviors, and all that kind of stuff. I don't really know where I was going, but that was pretty much the end of my thought. Yeah, I'm done. So you kept mentioning Gina Carano, and
that's
don't-
something to talk about. Do we want to get on? Do we go back to grilled cheese, or we want to talk about that
I
situation?
think grilled cheese is safer, honestly.
Okay, so Gina Carano, the actress who plays Cara Dune in the hit Disney Plus series, which just completed their second season,
Second season, and I don't
Yeah.
know. It looks to be final to me.
The Mandalorian.
Right.
Don't pull up any pictures, or Disney's lawyers will burn us at the stake.
Yeah, we're gonna get in trouble anyway.
Probably going to get in trouble for talking about it.
Puts the hands up. Poor thing.
So
I don't know what we're allowed to pull up on that thing. You know what? If you want to pull it up, that's fine. If we get blocked, I'll just blur it
they'll
out
just
again.
blur us out. Yeah.
It's no big deal.
So Gina has like been a habitual line stepper as far as the PR police are concerned at Disney, and you're not allowed to have wrong thought or have wrong speech. You're going to get
What's
You're
your,
canceled.
what's your
which-
boy say? The 3.5 index card of
allowable opinion? Yeah,
Yeah.
the 3.5 and something like that.
Yeah.
Referring to the old Tom Woods. So, yeah, apparently she
Tom
was
Pyramid
not
Scheme
parroting
Woods.
the allowable opinion,
Right.
and moreover, she was going out of her way to say things on the Twitter, which
It's probably a bad idea, but here we are
well,
talking about it.
I was talking to David on the way over here, and it was like, yeah, it's kind of stupid that she can't say what she wants without, fear of reprisals from her employer. But on the other hand, if you're living that lifestyle, making six figures, and your employer says, hey, you know what, you can feel however you want about this stuff. We're not going to throw rocks at you, but please stop posting this stuff on Twitter. Like apparently 2 or 3 times, to the point that John Favreau had to go to bat for and say, hey, listen, I'll get her to calm down. She'll stop doing this, so that all of the crazies stop screaming at you executives and about the things that she's saying. I'll get her to stop. Okay. And then she goes ahead and does a couple more zingers. And regardless of how you feel about what she said or the fact that she should be able to say it, they smacked her down. And at the end of it, I got to question her wisdom in like, I'm making 6 figures. Do I really want to? I've got a potential show lined up. What is it? The Rangers, I think.
Not
that
anymore.
they were going to do. And they were like, you know what? We tried to give you a chance. You're done. That being said, should she be able to say the things she wants to say? Yeah, absolutely. Should she be able to without fear of reprisals from her employer? I'm not sure about that much.
I've got to do some history work.
I think we're in a weird environment where that is that big of a deal. And I
Right.
feel like, again, it's gooses and ganders, right? If it was the other way around and she was saying things that made the other side upset, people would be like, oh, y'all need to just get thicker skin.
What was that? What was the name of the lady? It was in our chat the other day that walked out with a Trump head, a bloody Trump head.
Oh,
Kathy
Griffith. Or
Yeah.
Griffith.
So
Griffith.
she comes out, and she
think.
comes out was this couple years ago, and she's
When
literally
Trump got
holding-
elected, yeah.
Yeah, she's holding a
Mhm.
bloody Trump head, and her answer was, "It's comedy, or it's what I feel like, and you just got to deal with it."
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Like that is, wow. I mean, like first
now
of all,
she
wow.
got some backlash from some groups because of that, but that she just went on tour again, and
Right.
she's doing fine. And like I
Right.
said in our chat, I said she will continue, just like Gina will. She'll continue to appeal to audiences that share her opinion about things. Gina will continue to appeal to audiences who share her opinion about things. And what it's going to do is it's going to propagate polarity. It's going to destroy any sense of dialogue that we could have about these topics.
Right.
And it's going to just propagate more groupthink.
The thing that she said, and I'm going to read it because I want to read it because
Talking about Gina?
yeah, because it took because when our buddy posted that,
Mm-hmm.
it took me about 10 or 15 minutes just to find what she'd even said.
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody was just talking about that. She said something, but they wouldn't actually talk about what she said.
Right. In what it says here is saying this is
And real quick, the ones who would show what she said
right.
didn't show all the stuff in the background that people were saying to her. Nobody calls out the people on the other side.
Oh my gosh.
Some of those things people had sent her were awful.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like yeah, that one post that I put up, there was like 4 pages of people
Goodness.
saying all sorts of nasty things about her, and
Yeah.
you know, and again, so there's the other side of the coin where you say, you know what, okay, I'm gonna find you. What it's called doxing, right? So you're gonna say,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna find your employer, and
Yep.
I'm gonna make sure your employer sees this. Well, that's not fair. Now you're targeting somebody. Yet Gina got fired. Is that not targeting someone? So what are
That's
the
exactly
rules?
what it is.
So that's where I'm at. Is like, what are the rules?
Well,
The
it's
rules-
okay. It's okay for one side to do that. It's not for the other. It's like conservatives nowadays complain about cancel culture. But dude, I remember back in like the mid 80s, early 90s and stuff, like Pepsi or Reebok had anything to do with gay anything, and all of a sudden every conservative I know was like, I'm never buying Pepsi again. Don't ever buy Reeboks. I'm never watching this channel.
We've got friends that won't go to Costco because it's run by Democrats, apparently.
So there's stuff like that, and I'm like,
Well, think
you
about
guys realize that is cancel culture too, but just pre-internet.
think about Dungeons and Dragons. Think about Harry Potter. No, to be fair, Dungeons and Dragons was everybody. It feels like. Think about D&D. Think about Harry Potter. Think about
Lord of the Rings.
Think about pretty much any banned book out there, right? So
Yep.
that there's your conservative cancel culture. So that was happened, like you said. And again, it was a censorship, which we have been supposed to have been beaten into us since we were children, that censor bad, right? You've got Fahrenheit 451. Censor bad. Because when you start censoring things, like, for example, the conservatives are going to go into, or the evangelicals are going to go into places like China behind the Iron Curtain and give people Bibles because they can't get them because they're being censored in China, for example. This was back in the 80s. So
That's still going on.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it is or not. Is it?
China's, as far as it comes to like religious persecution, China is awful.
So I'm trying to get.
We could do a whole episode about that.
I'm trying to get China to pay me.
Oh, yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah, because apparently apparently they're paying people to do stuff in America. So I'm just saying, I'm in. Just reach out. Let me know. CCP.
Hit him up, boys.
Yeah, man. I don't know what I can do for you. Probably nothing. But I mean, if we're talking about a paycheck, anyway. So you're right. It's a good point. So you've got the cancel culture back then, and of course everybody raged against it for good reason, because you don't censor. Like in any case, you just don't censor. I don't care what it is. Like, and you used to have censorship on TV. We were talking about watching The Goonies.
Well, I mean, part of censorship is the free market, though, right?
Did you ever watch The Goonies on television, like back when you were a kid?
Absolutely.
Watch the actual movie. It is totally different.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot more. So there's a point where I didn't even know what The Goonies was. I had no idea what The Goonies was because I only watched what was on TV. You watch what's on the TV. You watch off
all
of
been sterilized on the
internet.
TV.
Now, yeah, it's totally
Back
different.
then.
So you don't even get and that's the whole point of censorship. You don't even get the actual message that's supposed to be going out, or what the initial author is trying to say.
Well, I guess there's a difference between censorship and boycotting and doxing. I mean, they're all in the same vein, right?
It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing. It's just different targets, really, and that's
different ways of targeting. I mean, it's like I said, like there's a little bit of boycotting and stuff that's part of the free market. Like you think about the bakery that wouldn't bake the gay couple a cake not too long ago. The correct response to that is not to pass laws to make them bake the cake. The correct response to that is, if you disagree with the fact that they won't bake this cake, don't shop there.
Well, that was the thing. If as we
or
talked
if you
about,
really want to support them, buy extra cakes from them. That's up
to
you.
What we talked about was don't prohibit somebody from putting up whites only in the window, right? Go ahead, put the sign there, because that way I know I don't want to go and support
that way you know who the idiots are.
That's right.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with that. Do that, because that way you're not finding out later on that the place you've been going to, or the senator that you've been voting for, even as Democrat for the last however many years, Bird, has been a Ku Klux Klan member.
We know Bird and Strom Thurmond are both like the super grand dragons. Anyhow, the
pinnacles of society.
But like with the bakery, for instance, it's just to keep on that analogy for a second. I guess not even an analogy; it was a real thing. But if people would have went there, and instead of allowing the free market to simply let them survive or not based on people outing them for being who they are, if people would have went around to all the different, I don't know, flour producers and said, don't sell them your flour. We'll boycott you if you sell them flour, and we'll make sure you go out of business. This company's like, okay, we're not doing that. Is that where it kind of crosses the line into the doxing?
That's a good question, and that's where we're at right now. And that's I guess, I don't know.
Is that acceptable to you? I mean, think about a cause that you are in favor of.
I always fall back on the golden rule, man. Right? Don't do unto others.
Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Come on, Chris.
That's what it is. I always, negative version of it is always don't do to somebody else what you don't want them to do.
The Florida version of it is do unto others before they do unto you.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's it.
Right?
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but that golden rule, right? You want to be treated. Treat other people the way you want to be treated.
Again, like we talk about with laws in general all the time. Always remember, when you set that precedent for something.
When you impeach that president twice.
Don't be surprised if in 4 to 8 years, when the other party has the reins.
That's it, man.
That they don't use those same tactics to execute. Everybody was complaining about executive orders when Bush was doing them. They complained about them when Obama was doing back and forth. And it's like, once one side let that cat out of the bag, you can't complain when the other side does it, you know?
Right. How about no executive orders?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Or if you're going to do
But wait,
anything to those executive
it's
orders,
my guy,
you just undo them.
If it's my
about that?
guy and he's doing executive orders that I like, it's okay.
Well, it's like what Deflategate, right? As long as my team is allowed to inflate the
So disappointing.
tennis ball, then it's
That's the tennis puck.
tennis puck. So as
Yeah.
long as they're able to inflate the tennis puck, then it's fine, right?
It's okay if my team does it.
Are there's only
Basically.
like 2 players on each side in hockey, though, right?
No, there's 2 pucks on each side.
Okay. So anyway, fair needs to be fair for everybody. Is my point, because if it's on a sliding scale, it's not really a rule, right? So you either can dock somebody or you can't dock somebody. Personally, I wouldn't want it done to me, so don't
Yeah,
do it to anybody. Right?
absolutely.
So please don't do it to anybody. So, and on the other hand as well, is like if you just don't agree with somebody, can you fire that person? Yeah, and you know what? Maybe she was warned a bunch of times.
She kind of was. But again, the problem isn't that they exercised their discretion to do so. The problem is that we've got a culture that doesn't look at that and say, wow, that's kind of messed up. She should be. We've got a culture that says, good. She's one of those. She's one of them. She's one of this label.
Right.
Good.
Silence that person.
Yeah.
And
That's a messed up thing about our culture.
That's the scariest part, because what she said, and here's the thing, and I really,
for what it's worth, I wouldn't be a fan of it if it was somebody who was on the other side of the issue saying something contrary to it. If it happened to somebody who's, regardless of their stance, right, left, conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever it happens to be, I don't care. The practice is what's important to me, more so than even what she said. I mean, good grief. We talked about Dave Chappelle earlier. Who hasn't said some of Dave Chappelle said some of the most controversial things of any comedian between him and Richard Pryor.
and think about the folks that were trying to censor them back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And-
And they had the same and it was just as bad when people were coming out trying to get them pulled off of the air for this channel or that channel.
Right. Because what you're doing is you're silencing either you're silencing a creative voice.
You're
Or you're-
establishing the reins of your own enslavement. You know, you're setting up the tools for them to use against you ultimately. Sorry, go ahead.
You're right. What I was saying is that you're either silencing somebody who has a unique voice, who has a unique idea, a unique thought, whether their thought is good or bad. Okay. What you're also doing is you're preventing somebody else from seeing that thought and then making an opinion based on that thought. So, for example, it could be somebody looks at this and says, you know what? Gosh, man, that just doesn't sound right. Let me go. And that's one of the things I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to go through and I want to research on what this was.
You're silencing the potential counters to it.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Would
So
Bastiat have ever wrote the law if the communists didn't take over France, right?
Well, in
Or socialist.
and
It was
how
socialist revolution.
how
right?
tough would it have been? How tough was it for Bastiat to get that out? What he did, I imagine it was probably not allowed to be widely circulated at the time. And think about communism right now. Think about that for half a second. Think about, because she was talking about the Jews in Nazi Germany. Think about the stuff that they had to deal with. Did it happen all at once?
Nope.
No. It took a little bit of time.
And I think that's what I don't think she was necessarily comparing Republicans to.
I don't think so either.
I think she was saying that there is a slope, like that once you start going down this path, it can lead to some pretty awful things.
The craziest part about what she said.
What's sad? It was kind of like self-prophecy, wasn't it? Self-fulfilling prophecy.
The craziest part about what she said is she basically said, the way I look at it is, and again, I'm not a total negative person, but the way I look at it is, she says, look, history has been changed. Like, we don't see history. Even Patton said.
Do you want to read the quote real quick?
I can.
Yeah.
Even Patton said back in the day when he came across the death camps, Patton said, go grab somebody with pictures, like cameras. Go grab people with cameras, have them take pictures of this, because no one's going to believe me when they see this.
Yeah.
And I don't think she even wrote this. I think I want to say she retweeted it. It says, I don't know, I could be wrong, but she said, because history, this is the quote, because history is edited, most people don't Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where the Nazi soldiers could easily round up Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?
Yeah, it was, geez, man, it sounds like a broken record, but putting labels on people and dehumanizing them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what they did to have a scapegoat for why Germany was going through such hard times. And then you can definitely draw some similarities in different areas today.
What I took away from this was her the question was this, because she made a statement and she made and asked a question. Of course, whatever stupid website I'm on, it says, now this is obviously idiotic and offensive.
It's so obvious that we're not going to explain it.
Well, and more on that in a second. It's behind
Yeah.
the paywall, which,
Yeah.
But it says, what she asked, though, is how is that any different from hating somebody for their political views? Now, we're in such a crazy country right now because in the United States, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, there are very few things that you're not allowed to do as long as you're not breaking the law, hitting somebody, stealing stuff like that.
That being said, if they want to say that you were doing something you shouldn't be doing, they'll find something to throw at you. But that's a whole other conversation.
You can say a lot and do a lot of things. Whereas what was it in India just the other day? A woman was arrested and beaten. No, she was
for
arrested.
Running a business? Is that the same one I'm thinking
for
of?
running a business well? Yes.
Yeah.
And
it was a Hindu group, I think that got together and I don't know if they killed her or they just beat her, flogged her, or something like that for running a business.
Went to court, dude. I want to say it went to. Oh, I'm not connected to the internet. It went to court, man. That's the craziest part. They went to court and the judge found her guilty for running a business well. I'm sure there's more to the story, but that's what.
She's obviously a witch.
So, the crazy part about that is like, obviously, like, so you and I have this conversation all the time.
She probably floats. She's probably made of wood and weighs the same as a duck.
I say that this country is great, but we can get better, right? We can always get better.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And I'll just because your car is making it from point A to point B doesn't mean you don't have to change the oil, right? There's always a way to get better. There's always maintenance and stuff that has to be done. There's always something that you can do to make your situation a little bit better. So we have that here in America. And there's a lot of people that are going to say, in the United States, there's a lot of things we can do to get better. When you take a measuring stick between us and India, where a woman can get thrown in jail for running a business well.
Saudi Arabia.
What?
Any of those places.
Saudi Arabia, just for the suspicion of being gay.
Yeah.
They'll hang. You can be
thrown
hung
off a building.
Yeah. Russia is still having problems with free speech and just people just being themselves.
Oh yeah. Well, they'll just poison you to death with radioactive chemicals.
So, I don't know. I guess
that's some crazy stuff went on over there.
I guess the thought is like, if we can't have a discussion, like first of all, my question is this: the question that she posted, how is it any different from hating someone for their political views? There is absolutely
there are some differences.
Hate. There are, but there's absolute hate in this country. And for me, when I look at this is a warning, okay? Because you didn't get from conversation at a dinner table of people disagreeing to trying to shoot somebody. Over them being in a different faction. And people are going to say, that never happened. Yeah, it did. That happened in this country not that long ago, like by the span of stars, time span of stars, right? So a couple hundred years ago, people were shooting each other because they liked this president or that president. Like that literally happened here.
I could see a news headline coming from Florida. Political conversation at the dinner table leads to gunfire.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But again, going back to episode 2, why are we there? Like this doesn't make any sense. So this to me,
the German people didn't go from Mein Kampf to Kristallnacht overnight.
Well, and if anything
took some condition.
If anything is offensive here, it's that the German people would do something like that. But did they? And that's my question. Like I haven't quite looked into it yet, but I do remember learning in school that one of the things that was happening then, and there's she read a book not too long ago. What's her name? Anne Frank. It wasn't Anne Frank. Was it Anne Frank? That she wrote. She survived through one of the. I was call it a gulag. One of the camps. She survived one of the camps, and it was her diary. And the girls, they read that for school. And there are parts in.
It's pretty.
That's
pretty rough.
So there are parts that are in that story.
What up, David?
My grandma also got me a series of books called something like the Kid Fugitives. The first book is called Escape to Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein?
Yeah. So it's about kids.
All German kids.
Yeah, German kids in World War II, where they
didn't want to take part in the whole thing. Yeah.
It's a really cool
I haven't
story.
read through him yet. He seems to like him though.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I don't know if it's true or not.
No,
but
I think that those are works of fiction. The Diary of Anne Frank is very real.
It is very real. Yeah.
Very dark.
And then you hear things about like where after a while these folks that were living there for whatever reason, right? The neighbors would turn other folks in. Now again, you got to put yourself in the mindset of what it was like to live then. We're talking 80 years ago now at this point. But you got to put yourself in the mindset of people are coming, knocking on your door and they're saying, "Hey, is so and so here? Are you hiding this person?" I can't remember the name of the movie that starts out, but it starts out where there's this general or there's German officers. They're driving along in this big open field, and they come to this little cabin, and they have some Jewish folks that are literally hiding in the floorboards.
I believe it's Inglourious Bastards.
That might be it. Yeah. And they're walking back and forth on the. Put yourself in the mindset of somebody who has to deal with that, because those soldiers, right now, and again, those soldiers have their own reasons for doing what they're doing, right? And you hear stories, and there are stories in the trials that came out.
Man, that's a whole conversation about the psychology that went on with that.
Mm-hmm. But think about what it was like to be those people. So the 5th, 12th, 15th time somebody has come up, knocked on your door and said, "Hey, do you know if your neighbors are Jewish or not?" You know what? If they're threatening your kids or there might be a point in time where you say, "You know what? They might be," right?
Mr. Skinner.
Just to deflect.
We really need to know if your neighbors are Jews.
Yeah, and if we
really need to know.
If that happens enough times, I can
where
imagine
they're
why
hiding.
somebody, and I think that's what she's talking about here.
If they're being hidden and you tell us where they are, we'll make sure that your family is taken care of.
And a lot of times,
in a time of economic depression.
Well, a lot of times some of the family was already taken.
Yeah.
Or the kids are off at school, boarding camp, or they're at Hitler Youth or whatever else, right? So the crazy part about passing judgment, first of all, about passing judgment on anybody back in that time, you got to walk a mile in someone's moccasins before you can understand them, okay? Probably more. I would say hundreds of miles. So the fact that anybody's passing judgment on anybody back in that time for anything, but this seems to me is more of a warning than anything. And the fact that the warning was taken as that's offensive, that's troublesome. I think it's troubling. Was it insensitive?
Somebody trying to bring up history and say this type of thought can lead to some awful things.
And there are some statements in here that I would say before you just tweet
some
it
false
out,
equivalencies.
You're gonna want to back them up, right? So that's why you quote stuff. That's why you have your sources and stuff like that. So you can go and say here, and here. But does anybody even begin to start to disagree that history is edited? Like it starts out, it says because history is edited. History is written by the victor always.
Yep.
Now, are we saying that the Nazis weren't awful people? No, not at all. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that, in our own country, the South wasn't quite as bad as everybody says it was. Well, the South had some different opinions about some things.
Around the same time, we were taking Japanese Americans and just Asian Americans in general,
literally
and throwing them into
the
camps.
Same war for no reason.
Let's not talk about what happened at all throughout the American West during the the Manifest Destiny and the uprooting and the transportation and extermination of native peoples. Do we even want to talk about that?
What was the one in Colorado?
Sand Creek.
Yeah,
Sand Creek. I'm not sure if that was in Colorado or not, but if it was Colorado at the time, but the Sand Creek massacre was pretty atrocious. But
you don't get taught that in school.
The thing is, we're all capable of awful things when we are directed so, when we are coerced so, when we are conditioned so. So like you said, to pass judgment on those people who were on both sides of the issue, very I hate to say it like this, unprecedented times, right?
Right.
That's the term of the day. But yeah, until you walk a mile in their moccasins, that's a tough one.
I'm reading about the Bear Creek massacre. The Bear River massacre.
Dude,
I'd never read
there
about
was
that.
so many of them. There was so many of them. Sand Creek is just one that we actually have decent notes on.
Right.
A lot of them just happened and were forgotten.
So, but I guess for me the idea that you make a statement about hating somebody for their political views,
Hate is bad.
and you say
Hate is bad.
hey, why are we hating people for their political views? You say that, and then the person gets hated for
Sit
saying
her down. Sit her down.
don't hate other people
Yeah,
for their political
that's crazy.
views. That's the thing. That's the thing that really got to me.
Yeah.
Was exactly that.
You've got a self-made, very strong, independent female up saying things, successful, putting her career at risk to say hate is wrong.
And that's the other side of the coin, right?
What?
Because you can be that person making, because it says here she's making $25,000 to $50,000 per show, right? So you look at that and you're saying, look at all this money that she's making. The fact that she's willing to say something like that, and again, look, whatever, Trump supporter, whatever. Like, I don't care about the rest of her politics because this is what she got thrown off for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at something like this, and the fact that people are attacking the statement, number one, it makes me wonder, how false is the statement, right? Because that's where my question is, and I guess I need to research it. But it says here, Nazi soldiers could easily round up the Jews because the government had made their neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. Is that true? Like, I don't remember if that was true or not. Like, I don't know. I have to go back and look at that.
I think in some instances probably, but do I think that it's a generalization that we can all accept for every instance? Of course not. But
and did they actually hate them? Maybe not. They're probably more afraid for their own lives than actually hating somebody
there was
else.
probably a good percentage of that.
But I don't think people hate other people all that much either. Anyway, I think hate is kind of an overused word anymore.
Yeah.
I think that you get angry because you don't agree with somebody, or maybe you get frightened because you don't know what they're about. But again, how is that any different from hating somebody from their political views? That was the one that people they jumped on, like, because they said that she was comparing Nazi Germany to, I guess it is a slight comparison, but that's part of that sliding scale that I'm talking about. That's part of that sliding scale, because you got to start somewhere, right?
Depending on what aspect of it, it is a false equivalency. But if you're just looking about the level of hate levied against people, there's an equivalency there.
Right. So hate is hate.
If you want to use the term hate.
That's it.
Yeah.
The hate is hate, and if it's equivalent, then it is supposedly equivalent. It's not, like you said, the goose and gander earlier, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a rule over here for one person, then you got to have the same rule over here for the other person, or you're unequal. And that's been one of the things that we've been supposedly combating in this country for the last 100 years, right? So if we are
tolerance, this doesn't seem like tolerance to me.
And it's funny. Tolerance is a funny word too, because you say it really is the best word. Like, it's taken me a while to get there, but you don't have to agree with somebody. You don't have to agree with somebody, but you do have to tolerate their opinion. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. Because what else are you going to do, right? And this is where you start going down that slippery slope. I don't agree with you. I tell someone to go cancel you. So what have I done at this point? Well, now I've impacted and again, we're talking about a rich Hollywood star, but I've impacted your ability to make a living.
Well, let's look at it if it was me and you. Like if you had got me canceled from my job because I said something that you couldn't tolerate, what does that do?
And does that...
You take food out of my family's mouths.
Right.
You take shelter away from my family. That is a violent action, regardless of whether you laid hands on me or not. That's a horrible thing to do.
Just because you got somebody else to lay hands for you doesn't mean that you're not laying hands on someone.
You're culpable.
That was lawyers, man. This is one of the things that used to it still does, gets me so frustrated with lawyers, because you've got these folks, and I, again, from Florida, so I knew a bunch of them. You get these folks that they would get mad at somebody and they would just endlessly litigate. Like, we talked about this a long time ago.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But they would just endlessly litigate. So they'd say, this is not going to stand up in court, but I'm going to force this person to rebut it. What have you done now? Because if they go to court and they can't rebut it, you're basically threatening them with jail time, right? And it could be this dumb thing like, I don't know, you put a lien on someone's house, and the lien shouldn't actually be on their house. Like, anybody in court or any judge or whatever really should look at it and go, that's ridiculous, get rid of it. Cost that person what, $25, $50 to file that thing? but you have to show up in court and you've got to do something about it.
Take off work, pay a lawyer, all the other things involved.
You're impacting somebody else, and the entire legal system is a frustration, but you're impacting somebody else now. And at the end of this, and I know I make a big jump and I usually explain this, but you're impacting them at the point of a gun. Whether you're pointing the gun at them or you're getting somebody else to point the gun at them, you're impacting them at the point of a gun. And I think as a country, I think as a people, I think we have gotten way too comfortable with that. Growing up, you'd always hear somebody say, "Oh man, the way those women are dressed, somebody ought to make a law about that. Oh man, the way those kids are talking, somebody ought to make a law about that." You hear that all the time. Growing up, it's like that is the opposite.
No, that's the worst thing to do.
That is the opposite of what this country was founded on. Well,
I implore
supposedly
everyone listening, potentially, that we mentioned Bastiat earlier.
They're listening
and talking about the law. Yeah, we talked about Bastiat and the law earlier, just in brief. It's like if you read it, you can punch through it in a night, easy. It's a pamphlet. You can even get free copies of it. Probably it's public domain information now.
Oh yeah,
you can look it up on Google.
Yeah, you look it up on pretty much anywhere. Yeah,
Bastiat's The Law, a pamphlet that he did in 1850-ish.
Oh gosh.
After the socialist revolution in France is something that is worth reading for the way he breaks down what is a law, what are the consequences,
June
what is a just law,
really
et cetera, et cetera. It is really, really something to get into.
Hey, so for what it's worth, something totally not heavy, completely shifting gears because I feel like we got to.
Yeah, that's some pretty heavy stuff.
What I was talking about a couple weeks ago was Guatemala, by the way. Laser scans reveal Mayan megalopolis below Guatemalan
the
jungle.
LIDAR.
So I will go back. Yeah, I'm going to go back and link it. Actually, can I text this to you somehow? It was actually in Nat Geo. We got to get Telegram on that thing so I can actually send her messages so she can pull this up. If you actually, Chloe, if you would Google, just Google laser scan Guatemalan jungle and make sure it's the Nat Geo version. I'm not sure if Nat Geo was the one that originally put this one out because I feel like it was a little bit older. Yep, there we go, February 1. Yep.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, go ahead and throw that up on screen for a minute. I don't think we're going to get in trouble for this. If we do, whatever. I'll just blur it out again. But what you see, and if you scroll down a little bit, let me see, about 3/4 of the way, I think, you see a really cool picture. There's two pictures. Yeah, scroll past that guy. I don't like that guy. Right there. No, go back up. There's two pictures that are next to each other. There you go. So, no, he's probably perfectly fine.
He is really good. I've watched him before.
He's just a hipster. Anyway, these two pictures are pretty cool because what you're seeing is if you go back to the other picture, what you're looking at
kind of inspiring, dude.
Is this jungle here is a photo taken like live of what it would look like if you're standing right there.
Have no clue.
And then you go to the next photo, and that's the augmented reality laid over top of
the LIDAR laid over top.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is there's
amazing.
literally a pyramid like right there. So the crazy part is how many times, and there's part in one of this. There's part in here somewhere where one of the researchers has said, I've walked by this thing 1,000,000 times and I've never seen it.
Oh yeah.
And if you scroll down, good job. If you scroll down a little bit past that, there's another picture, and this is the one that blew me away.
Showing the scale of the.
So that picture right there, that shows a city, that shows what would you call it? Like a
developed culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you've got
That's a metropolis.
Little developments that are around. You've got little. Go ahead. I completely losing train of thought again.
It looks like something that you would see, like, in like a ghost hunter film or something like that. It looks.
That's what the LiDAR actually looks like. But what you're seeing is
it's artist representation superimposed over top of.
No, it's not. That's the actual LiDAR.
That's the actual LiDAR feedback.
Yeah, that's the LiDAR scans. So what you're actually seeing there is it's what the LiDAR scan does is it rips through the jungle. So it actually goes over,
penetrates all the foliage,
and all that stuff. And these things are sitting there. So you're think about when you go to a big city and you can see in here, you can see the big, I'm not going to call them temples. You can see the big pyramids, and then you see like the outlying cities.
You mean burial tombs, right?
Tombs and chambers and stuff. You see the outlying cities and stuff. But what you're seeing is this gigantic network of buildings and stuff that, first of all, nobody ever thought was there. Number one, maybe obviously somebody did because they went and found it, right? But not only, oh no, I'm not trying to do that. But not only, but you can't see it from the sky, and that's the other crazy part. But then the next thing is you've got this giant region, which is 800 square miles. So 800 square miles, that's it, that they have mapped, which is a small. It's a small part of the region.
Yeah.
That they found all this mess in. And the craziest part about everything that they found there is these are supposed to be hunter-gatherers, right? Like these are people that are not supposed to be building
Obviously nomads.
these gigantic cities, and these gigantic cities are not built out of wood like we are. Most of our stuff is wood and steel. This is stone.
You got to quarry that. There are complicated engineering techniques to get that into place.
And here's the other thing. Think about this. The people living back then are no dumber than we are. They're in many ways are probably
they're probably more intelligent.
At the very least, we got to be on the same. Well,
because where we can store and share information, at least as far as we know,
they couldn't do
their capabilities for storing and sharing information were less than what we have.
Right.
So we don't have to be as smart as them. We can just parrot things.
Right. But think about.
Them boys had to figure it out.
They probably built stuff with wood as well. You would imagine that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So you were just seeing what they built with stone.
Yeah.
Just imagine what they could have done with wood. So if they're saying like this one here, this is laser scans revealed more than 60,000 previously unknown structures in 800 square miles. That's the stone structures.
That's the minimum. Yeah.
Think about, because when you go to Jamestown, for example, Jamestown, the way they found Jamestown, which was the first colony here.
First settlement, yeah.
First settlement.
Yeah.
The way they found it, and they're still looking for it, right? Like they know kind of where it's at because they found it based on post holes. So what happens is when you make the fort walls, they take these giant posts, they make holes, right? And then they stick the posts down in the holes. And when those eventually break off or rot, the ground will preserve those post holes, what's in there, and it what's the word? It breaks down at a different rate, so it decays at a different rate.
Yeah.
So I'm explaining this to people that don't know about
different
this.
substrate. Yeah.
You're obviously an expert on this.
No, I'm not.
So what happens is it breaks down. So that's
I understand what you're saying.
That's
you're
how they
explaining it good.
find these things is Jamestown. So what they do is they, but you got to remember they got to dig. So every year there's so much more inches of dirt and stuff that builds up, be it stardust or whatever the heck it is, or just things moving around or things getting lost, or maybe they're close to this, so maybe it's the waves. Who knows? But the stuff gets buried, right? So we talked about this before, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 inches, whatever, it gets buried. So not only do you have to kind of get an idea of where to dig for it, drop your watch in your grass.
Good luck.
Walk away, come back 20 minutes later and go find it, right? Now, in my yard, it wouldn't be that hard because I don't have any grass anymore. But if you have grass, it's going to be tough. Now, leave it out there for a year. Forget it, man. It's gone. Like, it's going to get buried somehow. Now, think about... or mowed over, right?
Not in your yard.
But something... Yeah, never. No. That's too much work.
Sorry.
You'd have to have a working tractor. But think about something that's gone for 400 years, okay? And then the only thing that's left are these postals that you go after. Now, think about digging down several feet, right, in spots, to find these parts of the ground that have rotted a little bit differently. Like that's got to be highly complex, right? And it's very expensive. Again, just digging anything is highly expensive.
It made me think when you're just talking about the stone structures being what survived, and go back to Egypt, right? And them saying, well, the Egyptians, they only used copper tools, they only used copper saws, they only used copper this, copper that. Well, why do you all say that they were only a copper-based, society when it came to the engineering and construction stuff? Well, because that's the only tools we found.
How many houses have you?
How many houses have you went in and you found the tools that were left? How many houses have you went in and you got in there looking around? You're like, oh, here's a nice DeWalt drill that somebody used to construct. That doesn't happen because what?
When we moved into our house, the shed was full of old non-working tools. I'm serious. There's a weed eater in there that doesn't work. There's rusted out.
But that's a good point.
Wrenches and stuff that don't work.
So why did they leave those tools?
Because they were useless.
And did they take the good ones?
Heck yeah, they did.
So if the Egyptians, the reason why you're finding copper tools all around that site is because those were the ones that were expendable.
Right.
The Egyptians kept their steel ones that they used to obviously construct some of these things, or at least iron.
In those post holes, think about the post holes at Jamestown, everything is completely wiped out. How many post holes are here in this Mayan jungle? Or sorry, Guatemalan jungle. How many post holes are around there?
Good Lord only knows.
Where other folks that weren't part of the high society, because they had their own version of gentry
Caste system and stuff.
They had their own gentry back then. Guess what? That gentry probably lived in these stone things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else lived in huts or
were buried in them or worshipped in them because they're all tombs or temples.
They lived in stick-built houses like we do, right?
Yep.
I don't live in a stone house. It'd be pretty freaking cool, but you know why I don't? Because it's expensive. Really expensive, and it's really hard to build, right? Not to mention, once you get inside one of these stone places, now you got to make it warm because stone is not exactly, warm, and it's just way more expensive.
Yeah.
So here's your rich folks, right? What about all the other folks? They're like, look.
Oh, I'm sure it's, like I said, the good Lord only knows how many was out through there.
Look at this vast network of stone stuff, how much other stuff was out there. So you're talking about a civilization that was well beyond the scale, well beyond what we ever imagined.
Yeah.
So if they were doing that, I mean, I don't know, 3,000 years ago, what else were they doing? That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So anyway, yeah, I'll probably grab that and post that in the comments of the previous episode, maybe even this one too. I just got to go back and do it.
That's cool stuff.
It's fun, man. I finally
we talked about a
found
lot of different topics.
Yeah, we probably should be done. So
it's about that time.
I keep forgetting.
Do you want to give the notice about spaying and neutering your pets or whatever?
We haven't spayed or neutered Otto yet.
Oh, you probably need to do that.
He's getting there. We keep him inside.
Don't
sure he gets
forget
big
to
and
visit our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
It's not our sponsor. Not yet. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. My name's Chris. This is David. I should have introduced everybody.
Chloe, David, Scotty are back here somewhere.
That's Dave.
There's people.
By the way.
And
he goes by Dave. He's your own son. He goes by Dave.
I don't call him Dave.
Everything's good as it should be in the prehistoric neighborhood.
All right, cut it off. We're done.